Our Giants game day coverage begins now.
It's the mosaic.
So before gloves start popping,
diving, he makes the catch,
and bats start cracking,
it is gone.
We bring you the voice of Bay Area baseball for the past 29 years.
As I always say, baseball reflects what life is all about.
This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie.
That's what we do. We talk ball.
On KNBR, the sports leader.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talkin' Baseball on this Sunday morning as we get ready to wrap up the series between the Giants and the San Diego Padres, and it's back home as the Brewers come in on Tuesday for 3, and then the Padres come in for next weekend. Then it's off on the road for the Giants again, the Baltimore, Kansas City, Arizona. Wow, how about that road trip? And then coming back for the last weekend against the Cardinals, and that's it for the 2024 baseball season. That'll be it. But last night, good pitching matchup, and it was Logan Webb and Dylan Cease. Cease didn't have it last night. He did not have the command that he normally has, and the Giants made him pay for it. He got out of trouble with some double plays. But Logan Webb, on the other hand, he's pitched a lot of innings, and it was 183 going into last night, and he pitched another 6 innings last night, so he's getting close to that 200 mark. But he's pushing it. You can tell he's working hard. It was a hot night, muggy night down there in San Diego last night, and he was sweating through his uniform. But the Giants end up winning the game. And there's a good story about last night here. There really is a good story of what this season has looked like. They win the game 6-3 over San Diego, and Webb does get the win, and he's 12-9 now. Gets a lot of decisions because he sticks in the game, and they stay with him. That's what an ace is all about. Cease took the loss. He's 12-11. Ryan Walker came in, and, you know, Mark Simon said this on the show yesterday, that certain pitchers get the corners and some don't. And for Ryan Walker, he gets the corners. And, boy, he came in and he threw one batter. I think he threw 6 pitches, didn't throw a strike. But 3 of the pitches were outside the zone, and he got calls. He got strikes on him. So he came in and just shut the door. He's a good closer. He really is, and he's been a very pleasant surprise. And even Camilo Doval was terrific last night. He came in, had command, and boom, boom, boom. He threw the 8th inning. Rogers threw the 7th inning, and the Giants win the game 6-3. Webb, as I said, gave up 10 hits, but he got out of a lot of trouble with 3 double plays, and that's the beauty of the sinker baller and the changeup guy. He could get you in front of the pitch, and you roll it over. And he had trouble in the 3 innings where he needed the double plays, but he got him. And he did his job, and that is baseball 2024. So a good win last night for the Giants. But the story of the game was Grant McCray. And Grant McCray hits a 3-run homer in the 2nd inning. And let me tell you, when he hits home runs, there's no doubt. They're gone. And, I mean, they're gone right off the bat. He's got 5 now because he hit another home run in the 9th inning. And he hit that one to right center field, and that clinched it for the Giants. They were up 4-3 and going to have to sweat out the bottom of the 9th inning. You know, and the Padres go to the bench. They go to the bench, and they brought in Tatis, they brought in Jackson Merrill, and they brought in Donnie Barrels, Donovan Solano, as their bench, as their pinch hitters in the 9th inning. That is not simple. So the big 2-run homer that McCray got in the top of the 9th made it 4-3 to 6-3, and the Giants cruised in after that. But let's talk about Grant McCray a little bit. You know, he's an outstanding outfielder. And, look, he doesn't get great jumps on the ball, but he's learning. He's learning. And Will and I will talk about this when he comes on this morning, of the learning curve, even for an outfielder. We talk about the infielders and how they have to learn the clock of Major League Baseball. But the outfielders have to learn the positions and the ball off the bat and things like that, because this kid can play. He is a baseball player. His father was Rodney McCray, and we've seen that clip a billion times. I'm sick of seeing it, of his father running through the fence, catching a ball in right field in the minor leagues, and that is what he's known for. But the kid is a baseball player. He's got a baseball mentality. I like it, and that's going to carry him far in this game. He can lay down a bunt. He can steal. He's got a good arm, and he knows how to play baseball. So for him, he strikes out a lot. We know the strikeouts are a lot, and Will was talked about him quite a bit. He was on TV last night talking about him. Will did the pre and post on Comcast last night on NBC Bay Area, whatever it is, and said, look, 2 years ago, you never would have expected that this kid would have had a major league career. That's how unbalanced he was as a baseball player at the plate and everything else. And Will says it's incredible, the strides that he has made in the last couple of years, and he's put himself in this picture. He really has, because I'll say it again, when he hits them, they're gone. And he also gets a couple of hits, going the other way, and he can beat out a ground ball. There's a spot for him. There's a spot for him. And when Fitzgerald gets on and he gets on, they can do some things. And when you try to build a club with some speed, which you need in Oracle, and you're going to need it next year to stay pace, to keep pace with Arizona, San Diego, and the Dodgers, you need players like this. So McRae, the story of the game last night, but the other story of the game last night, and I've been talking about him a lot, and that's Patrick Bailey. Let's forget about his catching, and a couple clanked off the glove last night. He's got to really get better at just catching the ball. The framing is fabulous. He's the best in the world. The pop time, the best in the world. But the bat lags a little bit, but not last night. Look, this is a guy who is, 8 for 90, and they pitched to him like he's, like he's Buster Posey. And he came through last night. He scored 3 runs last night, and every at-bat that Bailey had that resulted in a positive outcome was a difference in this game. The second inning, he gets a base hit. Wisely gets a base hit, and then McRae hits the 3-run homer and just blasts it to right field. You got to see it. Then in the fourth inning, Bailey leads off in the fourth and gets a walk. Fitzgerald gets a base hit. Wisely gets a walk. Now they're loaded off a cease. He really struggled. And McRae hits into a double play. It's interesting. Bob Melvin went to the challenge in the first inning, and I can see why. Because, look, Arise leads off with a base hit. What else is new? He leads the National League in hits, and he gets the base hit. Look, he's gone 110 at-bats now without striking out. Go another 30, and you're getting into, some serious major league records here. 110 without striking out. All right, so he gets the base hit. The number 2 hitter comes through, and that's Profar. He gets a hit, and Arise goes to third. But Yastrzemski throws a dart. And look, Yastrzemski's got a great arm. He's still hitting 239, 240. As I told you, no matter what he does, he'll always hit 240. But he's a good fielder. He really is. And he makes a great throw to third. And it looked like they may have gotten Arise. It was a bang-bang play. They called him safe. And Bob Melvin challenged it. And it was the first inning, and, it's going to be a tight game. You want to get that runner off third with nobody out. And the challenge was not accepted. It was declined. And the Giants used up their challenge. So my point is, when McRae hit into the double play in the fourth inning, he probably beat it out. But the Giants didn't have their challenge at that point. And I think strategically, maybe Will and I will talk about this if I remember, there's a strategy when to challenge. Because you don't know how the game is going to unfold. And if you challenge too early, you don't have the ability to do it, and it probably cost the Giants in the fourth inning. But McRae hits into a double play, and the point is Bailey scores, and there's the fourth run, and that was 4-3. And then in the ninth inning, Bailey leads off against Matsui, the left-handed pitcher for the Padres, the reliever. Now Bailey's hitting right-handed, which he really has trouble, and they walk him. How about that? Then he wild pitches him the second, couple of strikeouts, and then gets McRae up. Now, if Bailey doesn't get on, McRae never gets up in the ninth inning. And Bailey was on second, and McRae hits another home run, and it's 6-3. So, Bailey, big part of the game last night. The end of the order for the Giants, Bailey, Fitzgerald, Wisely, and McRae. that was the difference because the top of the order didn't do much last night against the Padres. So that was fun. That was a good game last night, and it was a good win for the Giants and showed that they could play with the Padres if things go their way. Good defense last night, some timely power hitting, and some good base running, and that was a good game. So they get the win last night, 6-3. So today, Spencer Bivens gets the ball today, and he goes against Musgrove for the San Diego Padres. Bivens has done well. Pitched 30 innings for the Giants this year. He's 30 years old. He's a right-hander. Probably we'll see a ton of pitchers today for the Giants. There's an off day tomorrow, so they'll probably just empty out the bullpen today behind Bivens if they need it. But Bivens is a guy, he could give you 3-4 innings. It's not impossible to get that from Bivens today. So we'll see how that turns out. Musgrove is pitching for the Padres today. Let me get my sheet out here. Joe Musgrove for the Padres today, the right-hander. 15 games for him this year, 77 innings pitched. He's been hurt. Don't forget, he was out for a few months with that shoulder issue. But the last 30 days, he's been in 5 games, 27 innings, 16 hits, only 4 runs, 6 walks, 27 strikeouts. Giants saw him earlier in the year. They've seen him a few times. Bailey 1 for 2, Canna 1 for 6. We've got Chapman 3 for 12 with a home run there. Conforto 4 for 8 with a homer. That's pretty good. Wade really hits him 8 for 23 with a couple of homers. And Yaz is 3 for 25. So maybe we won't see him in there today. But is Musgrove the right-hander for the Padres today? As I look at some of the things that jump out at me, 10 homers given up in the 77 innings, 7 solo shots. For Bivens, 34 innings pitched, 31 hits, only 6 runs, 6 homers given up. That's not great. But 8 walks, 24 strikeouts. He's been terrific. He really has. Lefties hitting 200 against him, righties 268. So, and also Bivens, runners in scoring position, 5 for 31. So Musgrove was out May to August. He's now back. The Padres need him big time if they're going to do anything. Their starting pitching is the key. Cease was good, but not great. He really wasn't. Not great. And, of course, King, good, not great. We'll see what Musgrove can do today. And then they've got Darvish coming back, Vasquez. Starting pitching is going to be the key for the Padres. This wild card race is absolutely wild. By the way, the Giants now lead the season series with the Padres, and that's 5-4. Since the break, the Giants are 23-23. In September, 2-4. On the road, it's not going to be a winning year. 10 games left on the road. They're 30-41. The Padres are 40-34 at home. All right, but the wild card race really is something. The Padres are in the 4 spot. Arizona is in the 5 spot, but barely. Padres have 63 losses. Arizona's got 64. Arizona loses to another lefty yesterday, Kikuchi. I've said the lefties can handle Arizona. They're 4-8 in their last 12 games, so they're behind San Diego now by a game and a half. But the Mets, believe it or not, are only a game behind Arizona. The Mets are in the 3 spot now, and they got a win yesterday, and they've got Aguilar for Cincinnati going for them today. And we'll see what happens in the Met game today with Cincinnati. Atlanta loses yesterday to Toronto, but they've got Chris Sale going today. So we'll see what happens there against the kid Rodriguez. So Atlanta's 1 game out now. The Mets are in the 3 spot. Arizona's hanging on to that 2 spot. And San Diego's hanging on to the 4 spot. And we've got 18, 19, 20 games to go, depending on what your schedule is for your player, for your team. So it's going to be something going down the stretch. And I wish the Giants had done better in that stretch that we talked about, that 12-game stretch and the games before that. They lost some tough games, and they've got 73 losses, but that's the reality. That's what you got. You are what your record is. 73 losses, and, of course, they've only got 19 games left to play, and they're 8.5 back of the Mets right now. St. Louis and the Cubs. The Cubs get beat yesterday at Wrigley by the Yankees again, shut out. They've got Cole for the Yankees today and Tyon, another 40,000 coming to Wrigley today. Great series. They're 6 out with 70 losses, so trouble for them. St. Louis, 70 losses. They did get a win yesterday over Seattle, so that's where they are with that. So a lot of good baseball. It's a Sunday. We have our contest going on, the Dinner for Two at Original Joe's. Just tweet in at Baseball Marty. Your score of the game today, Giants and Padres, and Raf takes care of that. He also comes up with a random winner if you were participating in the contest. Raf comes up with a winner for Dinner for Two, and I'll be there probably tomorrow night at Soto Mare in North Beach with Richie Azolino and Laura. It's a great job going there. It's a lot of fun, and I like it. So big winners at Original Joe's and also some winners for Soto Mare if you want to be in the contest today. All right, so that's a story. Good win yesterday. Grant McCrae, he can play baseball. This guy can play. He's got a baseball background. I like it. I like his tools. So it's September. I'm not going to fall in love, but I like what I see. And we'll talk to Woe next about evaluating players in September. All right, more coming up. Good to be with you on this Sunday morning. A lot of football today. There's a crazy Tyreek Hill story going on if you look on the internet for that. My goodness, what a world we live in. All right, more coming up right after this.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball. We're joined by Grant Power, the president and CEO of Nations. Grant, a quick question for you. What do you like for breakfast when you go to Nations?
My choice, I go with the two-egger, and I either go super crispy bacon or I go wild salmon. I substitute that in. But I love both of those meat choices. I'm pretty much 50-50 on both of those. And then I go over medium on my eggs, and I ask for chopped onions on top of those. And then again, at 50-50, I go either French toast substitute or I go hash browns and toast. And if I go hash browns and toast, I almost always pick English muffin as my bread. Definitely do coffee, definitely do orange juice, and I'm always filled up. I usually don't need anything until a late lunch, and there are lots of wonderful breakfasts, but that's my top choice.
Well, I love it. All right, Grant, you're making me hungry. Thanks for being on. We'll talk to you again.
Always a privilege. You take care, Marty.
That's Grant Power, President, CEO of Nations.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Laurie.
I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. I like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
All right, great to have you back with us. Glad to have you on the live stream with us this morning. The professor joins us. Well, how are you?
Marty, I'm doing great. How about yourself? You having a good weekend?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I was thinking about River Islands a little bit this morning, and, Tony Ryan did that little introduction for us, and there were 10 neighborhoods when he did it. I think there's 15 now, and, of course, they've got the 3 schools, and the high school is open now. It's amazing what's happened in this short time we're doing these shows.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. What else do you want in the community? I mean, my goodness, it's all right there. But the neighborhoods, different house choices, I mean, that's really a big part of their strength. They have something for everybody. And, of course, we love the water, Marty, because we know how much we like to kayak, you and I. You got the lakes, you have the river, and, hey, who doesn't want a baseball field in your community where you can watch some of the best, youth players in the country? They hold the area code games there, et cetera. So a lot going on there, and I'm looking forward to going up to the Del Oso farm this fall, I think. Now the fall's coming here and, bring the great niece and nephew and go through the corn maze and the pumpkin launchers and all that fun stuff.
The other thing which I'm excited about, we've talked about putting all my memorabilia, the audio, and all that, creating a little Marty Lurie type museum or exhibit or something with all my baseball stuff. How about that?
That's right. You know what? You're exactly right. That is going to be tremendous. Some of the ideas you have, I won't let the cat out of the bag, where people can actually listen to you with great interviews, not just memorabilia, but interviews you've done over the years. Yeah. So many great
thousands of
baseball icons. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. September evaluations. You can't get too excited, but I'll tell you something. Well, I'll get your thoughts about it. This Grant McCray, when I talked about him this morning, what jumped out at me, he's a baseball player. He is a baseball player. This is not a kid who got to the big league and said, geez, what do I do next? He's ready. He's a real baseball player. And it goes, look, I've seen the clip of his father go through the wall 1 billion times. I'm sick of it already. But this guy grew up as a baseball player.
Well, you mentioned his dad going through the wall, and he plays the game the same way. I have not been at a game, whether it was in San Jose or Sacramento or the major leagues, where I did not see him run 100% down the line. And how refreshing is that? I mean, speed is a big part of his game, but my goodness, how many guys, do that today? It reminds you of Pete Rose, the way he gets after, and that's his whole approach. And, the other thing that is impressive to me. He's only has just barely 100 games at the AA and AAA level combined. So he was drafted in 19. Spent a lot of time, and not a lot of time, but he spent some time in rookie ball. Obviously, a lot of time in A ball. I think 250 games. But his rise to the big leagues, once you get to AA ball, you feel like, okay, guys, if they can perform there, they can do it in the major leagues. But I don't think anybody anticipated him performing the way he is. And you're right, I got excited. I mean, I think everybody's excited about this kid. And he's calm. Not only does he play the game how hard he plays, he's calm. I like the way he's taking pitches. So there's other intangibles you look for to say whether this kid can play in the major leagues. It always isn't performance because, anybody can have well, maybe not anybody, but a lot of players can have a good couple weeks or a good week or a good month. But sustaining it is really the key, and I see a lot of good qualities in Mac.
Yeah, look, when he hits a home run, well, they're not wall scrapers. I mean, the guy, when he hits it, man, they're gone. And he stands there and looks at it, they are gone.
Well, he knows. He's played a little bit, drafted in 19, and he knows when he gets one, and he's wiry, strong. You look at his body, and, he doesn't have the huge muscles, but he sure is built like a premier athlete. He has speed, he has power, he's got arm strength. And the one tool that, keeps people in the major leagues is the one that's always a work in progress is the hitting. Yeah. And, he's gotten so much better. That's what impresses me. So much better in such a short period of time. I mean, last year he was an A-ball, and now look where he's at and what he's doing.
I like it. All right, that's Grant McCray. Big home runs last night, and I pointed out, look, Bailey was a big part of the game last night. Bailey gets a couple of walks, and every at-bat he had was a tough at-bat, and he got a base hit on a tough at-bat, and then that preceded the McCray home run. But Bailey was a big part of the offense last night, just getting a couple of tough walks.
Yeah, you need that. You need to keep the line moving. And, he had a walk-off hit the last home game. And, maybe that gave him a little confidence back. I mean, when you're not swinging the way you want, and it's no secret, he's, last couple of months he hasn't, had the performance that he'd like to have. That starts to weigh on you. You start chasing hits and maybe getting, a little confidence back with a big hit. Got him to relax a little bit and just grind out the at-bat and not look for performance. He can't always force hits. So the two big walks, as you mentioned, were huge, and I thought the whole club did a nice job against Cease. They didn't chase. Yeah. They didn't chase the fastball up. They didn't chase that short cutter slider that he has, and they did a nice job again. But of course, without McCray, maybe they don't score as many runs.
That was great. I thought it was a good game last night. I thought they played a good tight game. 3 double plays to get Webb out of trouble, and they turned him when they had to turn him. I love watching a rise for the Padres. Look, they bunted with a runner at second. They bunted to get him up with 1 out because they knew he's going to knock in a run. Well, the guy's got 110 at bats without striking out. And he's like, I swear to you, it's like Rod Carew. It's like the old-time players watching him swing the bat.
Yeah, it really is. Tony Gwynn comes to mind, Rod Carew, all these guys that were just tough outs. But what even separates him above those guys is he doesn't strike out. I think he has 9 strikeouts this year, which is just unbelievable. And, it was a little unique last night, though, watching a major league team bunt their man to third. There was nobody out, man on second, and they bunted him to third with a rise coming up. But it wasn't a 1-run game. They were down by 2. I don't think I've ever seen that in a major league game because if you're down by 1, I get it. You want to tie the game. But you're down by 2, but I understand the logic of get this guy to third. He's going to put the ball in play, and we're going to get him in, the likelihood of getting him in. But for me, the likelihood of getting him in with a hit was just as good. And what did he do? He got a hit. But, of course, Schilt knows his guys and probably doesn't have a lot of confidence in his 9th hitter. So he says, hey, let's move him up and make sure we get one closer. But haven't seen that very often in the big leagues.
Yeah, the ninth hitter killed him because that was a double play that got Webb out of trouble, too. The ball that was hit back to Webb. So, yeah, he knows his players, but that was a lot of fun to watch that. There was a strategic part of the game. I want to get your thoughts on this. When do you challenge? Well, because you challenge in the first inning, and I understand why they did it, and Yaz made a heck of a throw to third, really a heck of a throw. And you didn't want first and third, nobody out, 2 aces on the mound, tight game. But you don't get the call, and you don't win the challenge, and now you're stuck for the rest of the game without a challenge.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think you have to use a little common sense on when and how you use it. When we first started with this challenge system, it wasn't the guys in the booth making the call. It was new to all of us, and I dealt with the call to the video room, and I wanted to know the likelihood if he was out or safe, because just to your point, I didn't want to challenge. Let's say it's in the second inning, you got 2 outs and the pitcher coming up, right? And a man on first. I didn't want to challenge something where the likelihood wasn't there that we would get it correct because you lose your challenge. So I always wanted to know, but it's evolved into the video room just says challenge or not challenge. And I think the logic behind it is, and our guys do a great job, and what the analytics will tell you, because I heard this in meetings, later on in my career, is challenge anytime you think you can win it. Don't try to dictate the state of the game, because you don't know if you're going to need a challenge again or not. And I don't know. After all these years of watching, I still think, for me, the state of the game, and I think last night was one example. I'm not saying they shouldn't have challenged. I'm not saying that. But if you would tell me, hey, it's close, they may not overturn it, there's a 20% chance, me personally, I probably would have said, no, don't challenge. But that's not the way it's done anymore. It's, challenge or not, we think we got a chance to have this overturned, and they just challenge.
Yeah, they had a shot. I mean, it looked like Chapman maybe got the tag down, but, you needed clear and convincing evidence, and you weren't going to get it. So, and I understand why. First and third, nobody out in the first inning. The aces on the hill. You got Manny looming up there, and, I could see why they wanted to get out of it at that point. So, but it's good to talk about it. It's interesting. Of course, you're on TV this weekend. You're doing the pre and post on NBC Sports Bay Area. How do you prepare? Now, we know how you prepared as a coach and all the things you do, when you coach third and you were the bench coach. How do you prepare to do one of these shows?
Well, you're asking the hard-hitting questions this morning, aren't you, Marty?
Because I'm sitting here with papers all around me. I'll show it on the stream, all this stuff I got, and I look at you on TV, and you got a matchbook in front of you.
Well, let me just say this, because I don't want to mislead people, have them thinking that I didn't think the Giants should have challenged last night. You summed it up. It was first and third, first inning, nobody out. You have to challenge that. It's not like 2 outs, nobody on, and or one guy on and your pitcher coming up. So I wanted to clarify that. So they did the right thing last night. But to your point, it's a little bit like being a bench coach. I'm finding, I had all those papers around me and watching, hours of video. I mean, it seemed like at least an hour minimum, sometimes 2, first game of the series to get ready for a ball game. I found myself evolving in the TV stuff. The stuff that it's important to me, that I want to know about the game, what's going to happen, matchups, etc. We really don't break that down on television, right? So it's been an adjustment for me. It's more, the larger obvious items, the pitcher matchup, someone's good performance. But I find myself still delving into, when's he going to, deploy the bullpen? What guy in the lineup does Webby have to pitch around? Where can the game be lost? Stuff like that. The field conditions. San Diego's a fast field, and Webby's a sinker ball. I thought positioning was going to be important last night, and they did get the 3 double plays, so everybody was obviously in the right spot. But those are some of the things I look at. So I I've been working at it, Marty. I have some papers out. I just try to watch the games and learn the other team's starter a little bit. You really don't have to know the other team that well. So I'm listening to you too. I'll be honest. I'm listening to you, Marty, that's where I'm getting a lot of my stuff. So
all right. Well, we got Bivens today. Well, Bivens has been very good. 30 innings pitched. He's 30 years old. The guy throws strikes. And when he gets in trouble, he gets out of trouble. So they got a full bullpen today with the off day tomorrow. But what do you got on Bivens today?
Well, you know what? He's going to have his location. I mean, he's got movement on that sinker ball. If he has his good sinker, that's what he does. He keeps the ball down. He sinks it, throws the dead fish. He's got a little slider. But, it's not going to be an easy lineup for him. They faced Webby last night, who's, the top of the staff with his sink and his changeup and his slider. And he's a similar guy today. So hopefully he'll have his good stuff in his location, because they just saw a very tough one last night. So sometimes that's not helpful, the next day when the next sinker baller comes out, they're getting another look at one. But I like the kid. He's not intimidated by anything. We know that. He's been around the world pitching. He's gotten his opportunity in the major leagues, and he's done extremely well. I mean, his ERA is under 3. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more, and he can pitch anywhere. He's starting today, but he can go long. In AAA, they were using him to close. He was a late inning guy. That's how fond everybody is of his ability in a ball game. So I'm hoping that he has a good game today, because he certainly pitched well up until this point.
Yeah, he's good. He's been a very pleasant surprise. They got a full bullpen today with the off day tomorrow. So they'll need, with Musgrove. So I would be emphasizing that they got a lot of choices today. That's what I would be saying. And now you're a broadcaster now. And I actually was thinking about this morning. Plus, you've been in baseball. Look, you've been in baseball close to 50 years, probably. Who was your favorite broadcaster for you when you first realized that baseball is a broadcast sport? And you think back to listening to it at some point in your life, you probably got to listen to broadcasters. Who did you like?
Well, I only really got to listen to the national broadcasters, correct? The Sunday night baseball and the games of the week. I remember back. I don't think he was a broadcaster or for a major league club, but who used to do This Week in Baseball?
Mel Allen.
Mel Allen. There you go, Mel Allen. Like growing up as a kid, you always heard Mel Allen. And I loved that show, and I loved his breakdown. But, once I got into this business, a couple of things is, I didn't get to hear the local broadcasters because I'm on the field. And then I took this new position, and everybody's always told me how great Kruk and Kuiper are. And I've heard it for many, many times when I was on the field. I said, I never heard them, I never listened to them, but now I get to listen to them, and they are just fantastic. I mean, the whole broadcast crew is. So if I go outside the organization, I guess I would go to Vin Scully. Something about Vin Scully that you hear, it's nostalgic, and, the Dodgers were always very, very good, and always enjoyed listening to him as well.
Now, you're an East Coast guy. Did you ever listen to the Scooter, Phil Rizzuto?
Not that much, because we grew up Red Sox fans. So
you had Ned Martin. I guess Ned Martin was there. Kurt Gowdy, probably.
Yeah, sure. Kurt Gowdy. Heard Kurt Gowdy more on the national, but I didn't see many games, as you said. Us growing up as a kid, they weren't televised like they are today. It's wonderful how you can get any game you want today.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good. Good. You got to have a background, and there are people you like, and that's how you get the passion for broadcasting and talking about the sport, is listening to the great ones. And for me, Vince Scully, for me growing up, Mel Allen, Russ Hodges in New York, that's what I listened to. And that was sort of the beginning for me. So I was interested to hear what you had to say about it. Whit Merrifield, he had a big discussion this week. He got hit, and he's sick of people throwing inside high without command. Guys throw the ball as hard as they can. And he's on some committee, and they're talking about well, if the umpire deems that you threw inside recklessly, they'll fine you, throw you out of the game, who knows what. How about that?
Yeah, well, that's going to be another tough one to enforce with judgment involved. I mean, everybody's judgment and, view of guys getting hit is different. It's interesting. I certainly understand his point, because one of the biggest fears we have is, you say you're in Major League camp and you want to send some of your Major League players in spring training down to the minor leagues to get at bats. You always want them hitting against your own guy who has good command. So when you're in A-ball, for example, I go to San Jose now, and some of these kids are throwing 98, 99, and they're wild as a March hare, and guys are getting hit. You get mad because somebody's going to get hurt. So this has been around for a long, long time, and now we're seeing it in the major leagues. And it's scary in the minor leagues, some of these guys with lack of command. And we've even seen it in the major leagues with guys that throw hard with no command. So I understand his point. I don't know how they're going to enforce something like that. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I definitely don't have the answer on how to curtail that, but it's something that's been around forever.
Well, they opened the discussion. That's the beginning. And they're going to at least discuss that it is a problem, as you just described, and it's a big problem at the Major League level. Look at McNeil, gets hit in the hand, and he's out for the season. This stuff affects pennant races. Something that you and I did, which was a lot of fun, as I was thinking about for evaluating players. Are they championship players? Are they going to be championship players? So I said, let me go back to a couple of the championship players and see what you think of them, and then see how the characteristics, if they apply to anything we do today. And I thought of Ryan Theriot and his buddy Fontenot. How about those two?
Well, they were a lot of fun. You talk about championship players. You got the guys that really perform on the field, and then you got the complementary players that play their role to a T. And I think mentioning Theriot, although he was an everyday player for a while for the Cubs, and Fontenot, they were two, bench role players that played their role to a T. And the other thing that they did, especially Theriot, he brought a lot of life and personality to the club. I think these things, people talk about chemistry, but I think, when you have some characters on your team, it keeps things light, and it helps the chemistry. It helps the mood. It helps things in stressful situations. And those guys were certainly like that. Fontenot didn't say two words, so I can't say that he did that. He was a quiet kid. But these guys were good role players, and you have to have that. So you have the championship players that carry the team, but then you also have some guys that, if you're on a good team, guys like Theriot and Fontenot, they can bunt, they can hit and run, they can play their role. You need guys to be able to do that. One guy, you think of Joe Panik. Joe Panik's a classic example. At the end of his career, or near the end, if you just had Joe on a losing team, someone might say, oh, give me more. I want more power. I want more stolen bases out of second base. But this guy was a darn good hitter. He could hit and run. He can, he can bunt. He could squeeze. Played solid defense. Look, the double play is legendary. What he did with not tremendous range. So sometimes you say, oh, I might want more than that. But Joe Panik is definitely a championship player on a good team, and of course he was a couple of times.
Well, this is good, because those characteristics, we want to apply it to the kids who are up here now and playing, and see if they could get to that level. So I'm glad we could do that. Next week, I'll give you a good one, Andres Torres. You can think about that one.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot to say there. We better have a lot of time.
Yeah, he's pretty good. All right, well, good to talk to you. Enjoy the day today. I know you'll be on TV today, and I think you'll have a lot of papers in front of you. Tell George to have a lot of papers, too. You know that.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of papers out. We'll fill the whole desk up for you, Marty. And you have a great day, and keep up the good work. Love the show. All
right, thanks, Will. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, that is the Professor, Ron Wotus. Love talking ball with him on a Sunday morning, and a million other things, too. And next up, our good friend Glenn Kuiper. We'll talk some more ball with him right after this.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
It's time for an update from River Islands in Lathrop, Northern California's fastest growing master planned community. River Islands is truly remarkable. It really is. Always welcoming quality home builders, bringing in a wide variety of home styles. Right now, the community is celebrating a whole series of grand openings, introducing all new model homes in neighborhoods, on lakes, and near parks and trails. And there's even more to the River Islands story. School's in session at the 3 charter elementary schools and now at River Islands High School. The Boathouse Restaurant, I love it, serves lunch and dinner overlooking one of the community's 15 lakes. Champions Park just opened, joining a dozen other parks and playing fields. Add to that a lifestyle where the great indoors rivals the best of the great outdoors. And you can see that it's all coming together in one place, and that's River Islands. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands? Check it out at riverislands.com. You know it sure is for me.
Two and one pitch on the way. Swing, and there's a high drive to right. Way back there, on its way. Goodbye! His second home run of the game. That one into right center. And that is a backbreaker for the Padres. Grant McCray with a 2-homer game. And the Giants have a 6-3 lead.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us. I love Sunday baseball, you know that. Which brings Glenn Kuiper to the air. Glenn, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Marty. How are you?
Good, good. A lot of things I want to talk to you about. And the first, of course, is this kid from last night. And evaluating September performances. I remember Jared Parker, and you probably called the game at 3 homers against the A's in interleague. And this kid last night, he doesn't hit wall scrapers. He blasted 2 of them, and he's got 5 now. How do you see this kid fitting in if he does?
Yeah, it's first of all, it's a good problem to have. I mean, you're talking about young players that are athletic and look like they may have a chance to be pretty good players. You know, that hasn't always been the issue for the Giants. They've, a lot of times relied on older players, but that's starting to change, and we're seeing it. And he certainly is intriguing, Grant McCray. And I say that, Marty, because if we've only seen him 19 games, so it's a very small sample size.
Right.
But there's a lot there. And, you start talking about 5-tool guys, right? Well, this young man, he plays great defense. There's 1. He's got a great arm. There's 2. He's very fast, and he can steal bases. There's 3. It looks like he's got power. There's 4. And I think the question with him is, how much will he hit for average at the big league level? And can he kind of keep the strikeout thing under control, which has been an issue for him really at every stop in the minor leagues, and it has been at the big league level too. But again, it's a small sample size. But there's a lot of athletic tools there, big time, and that's what kind of puts a smile on your face, because we just haven't always seen that a lot, and now we're seeing it with other guys as well. But it's interesting. He certainly adds a dimension. And can you win games, Marty, with a real emphasis on stronger defense and, trying to run the bases better and maybe a couple guys in the middle of your lineup? I think the Diamondbacks do that somewhat, and you just wonder if that's a route that the Giants will think about taking. And if it is, then I think McCray fits in there somewhere. But I think those decisions are still a long ways off, and there's some moving parts there too with Yastrzemski and Lee coming back and that type of thing. So interesting decision, but really it's a good decision to have, because you're talking about having plenty of good, young, interesting players, and that's a lot of fun.
Well, he bears watching now. He's put himself on the radar. Are you sick of seeing the clip of his father running through the fence?
Well, you know what's funny about that, Marty? And I remember his dad a little bit in the minor leagues, because I was in the minor leagues with the Cardinals. I want to say maybe at the same time as he was, but you know who hit the ball that Rodney McCray ran through the outfield fence for? Chip Hale.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. Chip Hale, of course, coach with the A's now. I believe he's at the University of Arizona, but Barry, a guy, great baseball guy. But Chip Hale is the guy who hit the ball
that Rodney McRae ran through the wall, literally ran through the wall to try to catch. So that's another tidbit. But, yeah, he's a fun kid to watch. And you know what? I remember, Marty, in spring training, and you and I talked a bunch in spring training, but the coaches really liked McRae because of so much athleticism. But they also said, he plays with a little edge, and I kind of like that. And you can see that a little bit as he's starting to feel comfortable at the big league level. There's a nice little edge there, and he gets after it. And he looks like he's fundamentally sound. I don't see a lot of mistakes made from him fundamentally, and all that stuff is important when you start looking forward to 2025.
Yeah, I like it. And as I said, when he hits them, they're gone. And he has that baseball lineage, like you, that baseball family. And Wolf said he's got that calmness, and I think that's where it comes from. So he's on my radar. But the strikeouts are the issue. But look, the speed really helps. A couple of things came up this week. One, did you see that John Sterling is going to come back and do the radio for the Yankees in the playoffs? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? Good for John. I mean, really, he's an icon in New York, and my guess is he probably didn't finish the way he had hoped. I know he just felt like the energy wasn't there, and the traveling really can take it out of you. And you don't like to have, something like that happen with a guy like John Sterling, where it's in the middle of the year and he's just not feeling up to it. So I'm glad he can, I guess maybe go out on a high note would be maybe the best way to put it. And the high note being, hey, I'd like to do postseason baseball. And I think the Yankee fans, I think they're all for it. And he and Susan Wallman still sound pretty good together. They've been broadcasting Yankee games on the radio for a long, long time. And they're fun to listen to. And I think it's great. And I'm glad for John. Hopefully he can, maybe end his career in the booth, under his own terms, as opposed to earlier this year where maybe he just wasn't feeling physically up to kind of the grind of traveling and doing so many games. So I think it's great, and I hope, he gets to do as many as he can. And you know what? For his sake, I hope the Yankees go far. I know not everybody feels that way, but you got to think about it at a personal level too. So I like John. He's a good guy, and I think it's awesome that he's going to do that. Yeah,
I'm thrilled. I love listening to him. I really do. I like his calls. I do like his calls. All rise for the judge and all that business. I like it. I do. I think they're very, very creative. The Yankees are in Wrigley. And, look, the Yankees coming into Wrigley, and I said this yesterday on the show, it makes me think of Babe Ruth calling his shot in the World Series at Wrigley. It's still the same ballpark. And I was thinking about you. I said, well, you lived in Wisconsin. Wrigley, you went to County Stadium. As a kid, did you guys ever go to Wrigley?
No, we did not go to Wrigley. I think the first time I went to Wrigley, I may have been in college. I went down there in the summer to see, Dwayne and the Giants, maybe 1983 maybe. But no, we went to County Stadium a fair amount, but did not go to Wrigley Field. I kind of wish we would have. I remember kids that I know that grew up Cubs fans, and they would go down there in the summertime, and I always was kind of jealous. But, you got to understand, Marty, running the idea of, hey, Dad, can we shoot down to Chicago for a day in the middle of the summer when, you're living on a farm and there's crops to be taken care of. That didn't go over so well, Marty. So you've met my dad, or you met him when he was alive. That was not going to fly real well. There was more important things to do. But we could talk him into going up to County Stadium occasionally, maybe for a night game. But no Wrigley. And you know what? It looks like the Yankees have done a pretty good number on the Cubs the first two games of that series. In fact, they shut them out twice, right?
Yeah. They got Cole today, but they got 40,000. 40. The place is packed. 40 on Friday afternoon, and 40,000 yesterday, and it'll be 40,000 today. It's a good time for baseball. I like it. Which and I mentioned this to Woe as well. To do what you do and the passion for baseball that you have and being a broadcaster, Who was the first broadcaster you listened to that you kind of liked?
Oh, boy, good question. Well, I mean, growing up in the Milwaukee area, I was not necessarily a Brewers fan because, our fandom was with the Cleveland. They were then the Indians because that's who Dwayne played with. But I do. I mean, I remember Euchre, and Euchre's still doing it, believe it or not. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Oh, Merle Harmon. I know you know the name Merle Harmon. Yeah. He was somebody we grew up with, and then I believe he left Milwaukee, went down to Texas, and did the Rangers for a long, long time. But we listened to a lot of Indians games. Now the Guardians, but again, I don't want to make anybody mad. Then they were the Indians. And Joe Tate. I don't know if you remember Joe Tate. He was a longtime Cleveland announcer, and Herb Score. The former left-handed pitcher. Neither of those gentlemen are with us anymore, unfortunately. But so we spent a lot of time listening to those guys. But there was also basketball guys we listened to. Eddie Doucette in Milwaukee. I don't know if you know that name.
Sure, I do.
Yeah, Jack Brickhouse, because we could get Cubs games on in the afternoon when you got home from school, and Jack Brickhouse was he was great. You think about the people you listen to growing up, as kids, Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek on the Game of the Week. And, when you hear those guys' voices now, it really kind of warms your heart a little bit because it makes you feel like a kid again. And those people were so great. Those announcers were so great. And just I love watching old highlights just to hear their voices.
Yeah, well, that's what you bring to the booth, and but it all comes from somewhere. So good. I'm glad to ask you that. I brought up something yesterday with Susan, and I think the Giants have a lot of evaluating to do. And for me, the best evaluator around is Billy Owens. And I think the Giants should make a run at him. But Billy Owens. What do you think? I mean, what's his background? What's exciting about Billy Owens? He's a great evaluator. He knows everybody in baseball, and they need that. Yeah,
Billy's great. I mean, I got to know him a fair amount in my time with the A's, and he was always great to talk to because you walked away feeling like you learned something about the organization and the players that he's been watching, both at the minor league level and the major league level. And you're right. He knows everybody. I mean, you talk with him and you feel like you're talking to the mayor of baseball, and that's a good thing. But I know there's always been rumors about him possibly joining the Giants. He's been with the A's for a long time, but he is a Bay Area guy, and he was a high school, college star. In the Bay Area. So he's a lot of fun to talk to, very gregarious, very talkative, and I say that in a good way because he knows so much about each kid, and I used to like to hit him up once in a while. When I saw him, I didn't always run into him a lot, but maybe more so in spring training, and you just felt like you could get to Billy and find out what the heck's going on with certain guys that maybe you've heard of. You see their names, but you don't know a lot about them. So he's been doing this a long, long time, and you hope that he gets an opportunity to take that next step to be a full-time GM, not an assistant GM, none of that. So I hope for Billy Owens' sake, he gets that opportunity because there's no question he deserves it. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. As an executive, we'll see. But he knows his stuff. There's no question about that, and he knows everybody in the industry. So let's hope so. I mean, he's been at the level he's at for quite a while now, and he certainly deserves to take the next step.
Yeah, and he's really good, and that's what the Giants need. Yep. That's what they need. All right, hey, great to chat with you this morning, Eddie Doucette. That's a good one. Glenn.
All right, Marty, I will not be with you next week. I'm heading to Norman, Oklahoma for Parents Weekend. My son is a Sooner, and we got a football game to go to on Saturday, and we're flying home Sunday. So, unfortunately, I will not be with you on Sunday, but I'll be wrapped up in Sooner football for the weekend. So I hope you understand.
All right, cool. All right, talk to you in a couple of weeks. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Glenn.
Marty.
All right. Coming up next, Bruce Jenkins right here on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, R-O-B-B-E-N, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose and granny units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
You call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, Construction, Napa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, Construction, Napa.com. Gene Pagano checked in from the Tides up in Bodega Bay, and he said that with fall just around the corner, they're expecting some of the best weather of the year. Down at the Tides Wharf, there's something for everyone, from a great waterside restaurant serving the freshest seafood available to a fish market offering a wide selection of delicacies to take home, as well as a gift shop stocked with a fantastic variety of gifts, souvenirs, and clothing items. How about that? And just across Highway 1, there's the Inn at the Tides with its incredible bay views and the recently reopened Bayview Dining Room and its incredible menu that provide guests with a unique dining experience. Wow. So if you're looking to get away this fall for just a day or perhaps a little longer, remember the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Great to have you with us on this Sunday morning. Bruce Jenkins, good morning. How are you?
Good, Marty. How are you?
Good, good. The Grant McCrae show started last night. How about that one?
Well, yeah, it's a great thing about September, especially if you're kind of out of it and everybody's kind of tired, but a story develops from somebody that you've recently brought up, and you start thinking about the possibilities, and this guy really makes you do that. All the talks about him right now, he's got really everything it takes. He's a great athlete. He's got speed. He has amazing power. I mean, most of his home runs have just been way, way out of the park. Very good center fielder. Wants to be out there. Talks about being out there in the same outfield with Jung-Hoo Lee, and it's just really fun to think about where it all goes. He needs some work. I mean, he had like five straight games where he struck out twice. So I mean, when he's pitched well, he's had trouble, but geez, he makes such an impact, and the Giants need to feel good about their outfield next year because it's really been a drag this year.
Yeah, and you can adjust as a hitter, and sure. As I've said this morning on the show, he's got a baseball background, which I like, and as I've said 3 times already, the clip of his father running through the fence I've seen enough of, but the kid is a baseball kid. And I like that about him. So, yeah, look, he's in there today. He's leading off today.
Great.
And frankly, I mean, as much as we love, Mike Yastrzemski, there's no reason to play him.
No.
There's just no reason to play him with this kid around. And let's expose him. Let him play. He's going to get the Brewers this week, and I think he gets all right-handers for the Brewers, so it'd be good to have him in there. I don't know. I'd like to see more of him.
Yeah, there's no reason to play Conforto either. I mean, these guys are veterans and they want to be in there. I'm sure Melvin feels some responsibility to them, but no. I want to see Matos out there, but especially McCrae every day. There's no doubt about that. And, Yastrzemski, definitely don't need to see him for the final month. And I think his status with the team is somewhat in doubt. I think they could make a trade involving him. Has a lot going for him. He's certainly not a great hitter, but if you put him on a team that has a lot of hitting, and he gives you a great right field and the clubhouse presence and everything else, I think they could swing a pretty good deal for him, in the spring or at the deadline or whatever. But it's all about the kids now, and that's great.
Yep, I agree with you. It's McCrae, Ramos, Chapman, Conforto, Fitzgerald, Encarnacion, the big guy, Matos, Luciano, and Casali. That's the lineup today against the Padres.
Yeah, well, they got a couple guys in there. Encarnacion is interesting. I mean, he's somebody to watch, but you really wonder how he fits in with all the stuff that's going on in the outfield. There's so much athleticism, especially when Lee comes back. Yaz is a great outfielder, and this kid, McCrae is a very good center fielder. You can see it. He's got the arm. He tracks the ball well, and you make such a good point about him being around the game, his whole life. He's not like a kid who started football and hurt his knee. And I'm a pretty good baseball player too. And next thing you know, he gets drafted. It's always promising when somebody grew up around the game with a father who played it.
And Woe says his father's at every game. He's always there. So that's nice too. All right, yeah, we like him. We want to see more of him. Throwing someone out. Yastrzemski, Bruce, it's not just right field at Oracle. He made a throw last night at Petco to third. There was a fabulous throw. And I like throws. Did you see the Colorado kid who threw out the Brewer at third, the Doyle? Did you see that?
Yeah, geez, and he made an unbelievable catch, too. He's a gifted outfielder. Things happen in Colorado. It's almost like a mirage, but they show up on the highlights. You go, man, how about that guy? But, yeah, it's a very, very good outfielder. And, if they were to trade Yaz or sort of, demote him a little bit, it's not like, he's Clemente out there. I mean, you could get, if McRae were in right field, he could be great out there. He's a great athlete. He could learn the park. He's got a tremendous arm with Lee in center. I mean, that's something to think about.
Boy, I like it. I mentioned this to Glenn Kuiper. The Yankees are going to be in the playoffs, and John Sterling is going to come back. He's one of my favorite announcers, broadcasters on radio. He's going to come back and do the Yankee playoff games, which I like. I like the story.
Oh, that's terrific. I've spent some time with him in the press boxes over the recent years. The Yanks come in, and John and Susan Waldman, they're big music fans. The kind of music that I grew up with. Popular music from way back, and they know a lot about that stuff, and they just want to talk about that. We don't need to talk about the Yankees. Just super interesting people, and Sterling is an institution in New York. I know people sort of laugh at him sometimes. When they Yankees win. I mean, what the hell is that? but you got poor guys got indigestion over here. But he's terrific, and I hope it's cool with everybody. I'm sure it is that he's coming in because the Yankees they're super interesting right now. I mean, they got Chisholm back and Stanton back. Judge is unbelievable. All of a sudden, their rotation's so deep they can't fit Cortez in there. He came in relief yesterday and was kind of upset about it, but he finished off a shutout. But, they got Cole and Stroman. Rodon has been great. Clark Schmidt is back, and, that's kind of their four guys. So, and Luis Gil is also back and pitching well. So Sterling's jumping on a great story.
Yeah, I like it, and he's good with Susan Waldman. It's fun. It's a fun part of baseball, so I'm glad to see that. This wild card race in the National League, this is like one of those old National League races again. When you look at, from top to bottom, from San Diego right to the Mets and Atlanta, and I won't worry about the Cubs and Cardinals and Giants right now. But those four, Bruce, they're like separated by 1 or 2 games in the loss column. That's it with 19 to go.
Yeah, it's tremendous. Those teams are all, to me, very fun to watch for all kinds of different reasons. It's going to be tough to see one of them edged out. But I was looking at the final weekend, how it all shakes down. The Mets are at Milwaukee. The Braves play the Mets, but then they host Kansas City to end it out. Those are their last 2 series. And the San Diego, they play the Dodgers and they close it out with Arizona. So San Diego and Arizona on the final weekend could be tremendous. But so there's potential there for this thing ending in a super dramatic way. I can't even pick who is the odd man out team out among those 4 teams. They're all good, and right now the Mets can't lose, and you figure San Diego's great. Arizona is scuffling a little bit, but they'll be back.
Yeah, as I said, Arizona yesterday, they're 4-8 in their last 12, and Kikuchi beats them, and Valdez beats them, and then the Giants threw Snell and Harrison at them, and it didn't work out for the Giants very well. But everybody wants to throw a lefty at Arizona, so I'm a little shaky on Arizona, but I still say I can't believe that Atlanta is gonna hang in here on this thing. I think the Mets, Arizona, and San Diego, that's where it's going to end up.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't rule Atlanta out. I mean,
I know
the kid Schwellenbach got roughed up yesterday, but they've got Sale and Fried pitching great. Morton and Ronaldo Lopez, that's their postseason rotation, and they're I don't know. I just think guys like Olsen and Ozuna, Albies will be back. Murphy, tough to rule them out because they're going to have pitching.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good race, and Arizona could be the odd team out. Who knows? But seriously, San Diego 63 losses and Atlanta 65. That's it. And we're going down the stretch with them playing each other a lot, so that'll be fun. I don't know if you saw Joey Votto. He's been in the news a little bit lately. He's really trying to launch an entertainment career, sort of, in baseball. Have you seen some of this stuff that he's doing?
Well, he's opening at the Tip Top Lounge on Route 38 in New Jersey. He's going to start there.
Basically, yeah.
I have no idea what I haven't read about that at all, but he's a very interesting guy, very eloquent guy talking about baseball, not just for him, but just the sport in general. And he's a delightful guy and a very, very bright, intelligent hitter. So anything he does, I think he's going to do well.
He's very entertaining. So his latest thing is with Mad Dog, with Chris Russo.
Oh,
and
geez.
he does an impression of him, and he wears a hairpiece, and he does the and hello everybody, that kind of stuff, and he's really very good at it. And you know what this is doing? This is kind of raising his Q rating for the Hall of Fame.
Well, I was just going to say that. Yeah. I don't know if he's officially lobbying for the Hall of Fame, but he keeps his name alive, and he keeps people reviewing his career, reviewing it. It's very good, and he never falls out of the conversation. That stuff helps. Like Dale Murphy, just kind of all of a sudden he was sort of gone, and I don't know what he did, but I'm sure he did some good things. He's such a good man, but then you kind of forget about these guys. And Votto's keeping his name like right up front.
Yep. This is going to do it for him. And now they're already analyzing, well, he played in a different era where walks were important and on base percentage. And, so you can't judge him on the old standards. And, they're already making the argument for him for the Hall of Fame. So we'll see what happens there. Going back to the Giants a little bit, I thought Duvall pitched very well last night. He was very comfortable. And, boy, this Ryan Walker, Bruce, really good. He's really good.
Oh, man. I mean, he's between them, both of those guys could be the closer next year, just case closed. Walker's an awfully good setup man if Duvall is right. And to me, I think they should give Duvall the first crack at having that. It's better. It's better to have one guy, I think, and then you have the second guy who can close after Duvall's worked two or three nights in a row. But Duvall, it's been mostly in his head. His stuff hasn't really lost him. He had some problems. His attitude was so bad that Kruko and Kuiper were openly mentioning it on the air. Yeah. And it was a problem. But he came back and said, I realized, I was a little bit immature. I regret what I did, and I'll accept whatever they have for me. But I think when you start fresh next year, he's the closer. And meanwhile, Ryan Walker, good grief. I mean, the guy, you can't hit this guy. We've talked about the way he comes at you from a different angle. He's kind of sideways, and then the ball, he looks like he's looking toward third, and the ball ducks low and away to a right-hand hitter. It's like, how do you even hit that? Yeah. Or a lefty, for that matter, coming in tight on him. He's a little bit like Robbie Ray. He expends so much effort. You kind of worry about a guy who does that, but he might pitch the next 10 years, and the guy who throws an easy motion, his elbow flares up on him tomorrow.
Yeah, for one inning, and he's got movement. That's what I like about him. So, those are two good parts of the game for me last night. We just touched on this a little bit yesterday, and I want to get your thoughts about it, about the A's. Number one, they're playing great baseball, and they really are. And we've said it a million times, it's a shame as to what's happening here to Oakland and the fans and the whole thing. It just is so unnecessary. But the Coliseum is now owned by one group. And, if the A's wanted to deal with the Coliseum as opposed to Sacramento, which sounds like it's got a million problems, you're not dealing with the city anymore. You're dealing with some group that owns the Coliseum, and maybe you can make a deal.
No, that would make a huge difference. I mean, Sacramento has its charm, and I'm sure they're all excited up there, about just the idea of Major League Baseball. But as Susan Slusser wrote a great piece about all the pitfalls up there, making it just very clear, teams are going to be walking in from the clubhouse, across the field to get to the dugout. It's 1,000,000 degrees. It's AstroTurf. The sellout crowd is like 17,000. Absolutely minor league in every respect. And you can't have that. You can't do that to these guys. You can do it to Fisher and Dave Kaval, but you can't do it to Brent Rooker. He's in all the leaders. He's hitting .301. He's got 35 homers, 99 RBI. This guy's having a phenomenal year. And Butler and Langoliers. I mean, geez, the team it's just so good. The Coliseum. I mean, everybody's romanticizing about it now. It's a dump. It was a dump in '68. It was a dump in '78, '88, and '98. The people is what makes that team. But I'd hate to see him trudge back to the rats and the possums and everything, and all the things that make it a totally ordinary ballpark. But it's their ballpark. It's a major league ballpark, and heaven knows, if that would be a better solution than, I guess drawing 15,000 in Oakland would be better than drawing 15,000 in Sacramento.
Yeah, with the 115-degree temperature on the AstroTurf, and nobody really wants to be there. So
that's going to drive everybody crazy.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see. But that's a good development. That's a new development in the story. And as I said, Susan wrote a good story on this stuff. We had our historical note from yesterday. It was 1993. Mark Whitten. Bruce, he hits 4 homers in one game, of course, for the Cardinals against the Reds, drives in 12.
Sure.
And he sort of just came out of nowhere, and it's an incredible moment for Mark Whitten. He had one of those baseball days.
Yeah, and he tied Jim Bottomley's record. I thought that would never be broken. Going back to 1924, a guy drives in 12 runs in a game, but Whitten did that. It is interesting. He came up with Cleveland. He was known as a right fielder. Great arm, good defense. He didn't have a lot of power. And then that horrible tragedy happened in Little Lake Nellie in 1993. Spring training, Winter Haven, Cleveland Indians. They got 2 guys die in that insane lake accident. Steve Owen and Tim Cruz. Bobby Ojeda was there. 3 pitchers, 2 dead, 1 basically gone. And all of a sudden, they need pitching in a desperate way, and they traded Whitten to the Cardinals to get some pitching. So now he winds up with the Cardinals, and he has this game just from nowhere. He never really, repeated anything like that. He became a decent power hitter, but my goodness, and that list of guys with 4 homers in a game, it's so wild. I mean, you can go back to Ed Delahanty in the 19th century, and guys like Scooter Gennett and Pat Siri, but you got some great names on there: Gehrig, Chuck Klein, Willie Mays, and Colavito, and more recently Josh Hamilton and Schmidt, and then Whitten's in there. But what a night that was to be at the park.
Wow, 4 home runs for him. It reminded me of, we talked about Nate Colbert yesterday, who hit the 5 homers in the doubleheader. And one of the fans, Elliot Kolker, sent me a note about Eric Rasmussen, who pitched for the Cardinals in the late 70s. And he also pitched for San Diego as well around that period of time, and pitched in Mexico. So they're talking to him, and they said, geez, what's it like playing for the Cardinals? And he said, well, after the game, something good happens, and Stan Musial walks in and talks to you about baseball.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what was it like with the Padres? And, of course, this is the Padres, talking about the late 60s, early 70s. And we said, well, in the Padres, if somebody hit a home run, Nate Colbert would come in and try to sell you a used car. And that's
a little different than Stan the Man.
Yeah, and that was kind of what we talked. So that's San Diego. When we watched the game today, just realize how far they've come from the days of, they almost went to Washington, my God, and Ray Kroc getting on the mic saying this team stinks, and Roseanne Barr and everything else. And now you look at it today, it's a crown jewel of baseball.
They could wind up winning the whole thing. They really are very, very good, and they're fun to watch. I'm delighted that Tatis is back, and I tell you, Luis Arias, man, that guy.
Oh,
the batting title race is over. I mean, he had a little bad hand injury, but you see him last night, just snapping base hits everywhere. There's still only 2 guys hitting 300 in the league, but he's one of them. So he upholds that tradition. So I guess they get Musgrove today. He's been very good. And Spencer Bibbins for the Giants. So once again, who knows?
Yeah, 313 to 307. That's it for Horizon Ozuna. Turner at 297. And Judge is, 321, and Witt is 336. So he's still got a shot there and still leading. Judge is leading on the homers and RBIs. So, we'll follow it. Our doubles guy, Bohm, for the Phillies, he's hurt. He's only got 44. But Duran has got 44 now for the Red Sox. So getting in the 50s for doubles is a big deal. So we'll see if he does that. All right.
Yeah, Duran could definitely do that because he can really run. He can stretch singles into a double, and he's been pretty hot. He got. Well, I don't know how he got through that unfortunate incident where he yelled at a fan. He yelled the very wrong thing at a fan and sort of exposed some real immaturity there. But he's rebounded. I think he's probably won a lot of the fans back over with his play. Forget that what happened, but interesting player, and they're still kind of in the race. Although they're sort of like the Cubs and the Cardinals, they're sort of not really.
Yeah, boy, amazing. All right, we got a lot to talk about next week as another week of baseball go by. So have a great Sunday. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, you too, Marty. Thanks.
All right, coming up, we'll spend a few minutes about this book, and I'm holding it up on our live stream. Baseball, the Turbulent Mid-Century Years, Stephen Gitshire, very, very good author. So we'll give you a few minutes of Stephen and what his book is all about. And then we got Joe Sheen coming up. So we'll do that and more right here on our show right after these messages.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Just a quick note about the rooftop restaurant at the Via Hotel, the Hotel Via across the street from the park. They do a wide variety of events on the rooftop, from weddings and birthdays to corporate retreats and special events, holiday events, and any other special occasion you can think of. With stunning 360 views of the skyline, Bay Bridge, East Bay, and of course Oracle Park, the rooftop at Via is truly one of the most unique event venues in San Francisco.
It sound right, boy.
Fans, I love to talk about my good friends at Georgie Brothers Furniture. They've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers find beautiful pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom, you've heard of it, is full of some of the finest manufacturers of furniture, carpets, and window coverings. Now, one of the most popular furniture lines that I own is Stressless. You know, I love it. They make high-quality, comfortable furniture, including sectionals, sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the one I've got, and that is the chair and ottoman. I love it. Starting August 30th and running all the way until October 21st, there's a new Stressless promotion. It's called Fall Savings. During this sale, you'll receive an instant 10% savings on all Stressless furniture. This can easily add up to hundreds of dollars. It's an unbelievable savings on one of the most well-made furniture products today. That's Georgie Brothers Furniture. The showroom is in South San Francisco with free parking. Since 1933, the best source for home furnishings. Visit them at GeorgieBrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember to tell them Marty sent you.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Laurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball today. Joined by just a wonderful author, did a terrific book. It's called Baseball, The Turbulent Mid-Century Years. It's Stephen Gitschier. He's an archival consultant for the Sporting News. You know, I love the Sporting News. He taught American history, sport history, and the history and culture of baseball at a Midwestern university before retiring in 2020. Prior to that, he served as the archivist for the Sporting News from 1986 to 2008. He's a 2023 recipient of the Society for American Baseball Research, SABR, the prestigious Henry Chadwick Award given to the someone who makes great contributions to baseball research. Stephen, a pleasure having you with us. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Marty, very much.
The book is really a lot of fun to look at, and it covers so much history. And fans know that I've talked many times about how if we look at American history and then look at the baseball field, it's reflected on there. And I think you really captured that so well. Why this book for you? Why did this come about?
Well, I think I wrote this book because I thought that the baseball community needed a book to bring together all the research that so many people have done on these decades. There were two earlier histories of baseball up to about 1930, but the last one of those was published in 1971, which was the year that SABR was founded. And since that time, SABR members and other people have done so much research that I thought it was time for a new summing up and one that would bring the story closer to the present. So I picked 3 decades. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, you did. And I was going to say this, that you picked 3 good decades to put into the book, Turbulent Years. And I even think about, before we get to those 3, the 20s. Were, you know, the roaring 20s and Babe Ruth and the home run, and the country was living high on the hog, so to speak, and the ball was different, and all of a sudden the home run was part of the game and kind of reflected life in the 20s as well.
Yes. The 20s are often considered one of baseball's golden ages, no question about that. And, of course, Ruth is the star.
Yeah, and then we move into, all right, so let's talk about choosing these decades, and let's be clear as to why you started with the 30s.
You know, the hardest decision you make when you write a book like this is when should it begin and when should it end. The previous history, about which I just talked a minute ago, ends around 1930. And so I thought, well, maybe that's a pretty good time to start. And I was looking through the Spalding Guide, the baseball guide of its day, for 1932, and they've got an essay of obituaries, and the title on that essay is A Grim Harvest. Think about that. And there were so many famous people in baseball history and in the leadership who died in 1931, and a couple more in early 1932. And I thought, boy, this is the end of one era and the beginning of another. And if you have to start anywhere, this is a good place to start. So I started with the Depression, looked back a little bit to the 20s, but really I start talking in depth with the Depression.
Who were some of the people that passed away in the early 30s that caught your attention?
Charles Comiskey, Gary Herman, the president of the National, the member of the National Commission, the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, Barney Dreyfuss, the longtime owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and there were others besides, including Ban Johnson, the first president of the American League, and his successor, Ernest Bernard, the second president of the American League. Both of them died within days in the fall of 1931.
Boy, thinking of the Giants against that backdrop, John McGraw, early 30s, he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Charles Stoneham, who was notorious, connected to Arnold Rothstein, he passes away, and the team goes to Horace Stoneham. And the Giant history we'll catch up with a little bit later with Horace Stoneham, of course, moving to San Francisco. But those are another couple that really dominated the New York news, let's put it that way.
That's absolutely correct. The Stoneham family, as people who are listening know, instrumental in every facet of Giant history, well past the move from New York to San Francisco.
All right, baseball, the turbulent mid-century years. Stephen Gitschier is the author, and let me spell the last name so people can get it, Gietschhier. And Stephen's a wonderful research fellow, and he's gotten a lot of awards for doing it. Stephen, let's talk about the 30s and all the things that happened that sort of upset the timeline, so to speak. Those are the turbulent years. Let's talk about some of the things in the 30s that created that bump in the timeline.
Sure. Well, first of all, as people are thrown out of work, one of the first things they stop doing is they stop going to baseball games. So attendance declines, not only in the major leagues, but also in the minor leagues. Owners respond at the major league level by cutting salaries. Of course, they're not taking in as much money. They didn't have the TV money we have today because there was no TV, so they cut salaries. And yet at the same time, they were reluctant to lower ticket prices. Now, one of the most prominent owners of the day, of course, was Connie Mack, who owned the Philadelphia Athletics for a half century. And a reporter asked him once, Mr. Mack, everybody called him Mr. Mack, no one called him Connie. Mr. Mack, why don't you cut ticket prices? And he said, young man, let's take a look at the ballpark. And they looked at the ballpark, just before a game was beginning, and the seats that were reasonably full were the most expensive seats. So he said, why should I cut prices if the most expensive seats are the ones that are still being purchased? So there's a downward pressure on salaries, a reluctance to lower ticket prices. The minor leagues contract. We can remember in the majors when there was talk of contraction about 20 years ago. The minor leagues contract. In fact, there were too many leagues and there were too many teams that weren't capitalized enough. And so when they hit hard times, they went out of business. A fair number of leagues from year to year would try to make it from the beginning of the season until the 4th of July. They'd play a doubleheader on the 4th of July, try to draw a big holiday crowd, and then go out of business the next day. Now, on the other side of the coin, baseball is confronted with the advent of radio broadcasting. Radio stations begin to spring up all over the country. Radio stations need programming. They still do. And one of the things they turn to is baseball. So how does baseball respond? Well, on the one hand, They're anxious to have their product advertised on the radio. On the other hand, owners are worried. If we start putting these games on the radio, why will people come out to the ballpark? Won't that have an adverse effect on ticket sales? And of course, they're wrong. People listen to the game on the radio and they say, hey, this sounds like fun. Let's go out to the ballpark and see a game for ourselves. Along with the contraction of the minors, you got this tremendous battle between owners and the commissioner, Kennesaw Landis, about the creation of farm systems and the minor league draft. It's very detailed. It goes on for 20 years. Landis finally loses, and farm systems are the result. But at the same time, baseball does a few things to try to goose the crowd, to try to get people to come out. The All-Star Game begins in 1933. The Hall of Fame is created, in part as a marketing tool. And there are various postseason awards established, including the creation of the Major League Player of the Year award by the Sporting News in 1936. But it's a dim time overall. The Depression is tough times for baseball, turbulent times, hence the title of the book.
Baseball, the turbulent mid-century years. Let's talk about the 30s a little bit. You mentioned Connie Mack. He ended up selling off a number of his players just to get cash so he could operate. But then on the other hand, the multi-millionaire Tom Yawkey ends up buying the Red Sox, and he's creates what they call the Millionaires. That's what they used to call his ball club.
Yes,
And Briggs in Detroit is now in charge of Detroit. You have Briggs Stadium being named. But I guess my point is this. There was some good baseball being played and still a lot of interest in the game. You look at Hank Greenberg, and there's still Babe Ruth for the early part of the 30s, and here's Gehrig. The Yankees are going to win, 3 or 4 in a row. The Giants win a couple of pennants. The great stories with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Gas House Gang. The Cubs make it to the World Series. The Tigers a couple of years. We have Babe Ruth's called shot. There's still so much baseball drama against this backdrop. How does that happen?
Well, it happens because there are only 8 major league teams in each league. There are only 2 leagues. The talent level is pretty high. American boys, as they're growing up, play baseball. They play baseball in the cities. They play baseball in the schoolyards. They play baseball in the country. There are plenty of scouts looking to sign players. They don't pay them very much money, but the cream rises to the top. And you're absolutely right. The quality of play in the 1930s is just tremendous. You mentioned some of the great players, and they are all-time greats for as long as baseball exists, however long that might be. We will remember the 1930s. Yes.
Boy, it's a wonderful book. I'll hold it up on the stream one more time. You can see it. Baseball, the turbulent mid-century years. Very good. He's a good interview, isn't he? If you want the book, up at the Book Tree in Montclair, David, I'm sure can get it for you. But, yeah, I'm glad to have him on, and it's a great part of baseball history and how history just repeats itself and repeats itself. Just change the names and the industries, and you get the same story. Wow. All right. We've got a lot more coming up. Joe Sheehan's going to join us right after this.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talking Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us. Joe Sheen joins us. It's the best baseball newsletter out there, joesheen.com. Joe, how are you?
Good, Marty. Like everybody else, I'm completely laser focused on baseball today.
Yeah, I can imagine. Right. I have Raph checking the football scores as we're doing the show today. But look, the Giants did make a big move this week, and that is signing Matt Chapman. You did have some comments about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels more like a non-baseball move to me. Chapman, of course, spent all those years in Oakland. He seemed to want to play in the Bay Area. Signed late with the Giants over this last winter. He's had a great year. He's had an absolutely fantastic year, holding up as one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. Doesn't hit for average, but draws walks, hits for some power. 31, this locks him in with the Giants at 37, and that's really where my concern comes. This is a game right now where older players decline pretty rapidly in their early 30s. One of the comps for Chapman throughout his career has been Nolan Arenado, and we've seen him decline significantly in his early 30s with the Cardinals. So I think the non-baseball aspects of this are carrying the day. It's not a ridiculous contract. It's not going to be debilitating, but I do think that the Giants right now are seeing the best season that Chapman's going to be able to have for them.
Giants have a lot of young players, and look, let's face it, you just can't win a pennant just with free agency. You've got to develop that inner core, and they've got a couple. This Fitzgerald is going to be here next year. It looks like he can play in the big leagues. And all of a sudden, this over the last 19 games, this Grant McCray looks like he's got some legitimate power, and he's got tools. So those are two positive parts of what the Giants are doing, at least.
I think these are secondary pieces on a good team. You look at Fitzgerald, probably a fourth outfielder utility type, can play all over, give you that speed that you mentioned. The power he's shown this year is a little bit out of character. You mentioned McRae. Again, the big home run last night to extend the lead, but 27 strikeouts, 3 walks. He was this kind of hitter in the minor leagues too. So I would be skeptical about his ability to be a top player on a good team. But you need to be able to find those guys too. I want to see the Giants be able to develop Harrison and Luciano, and then have Bailey be part of that star core. But you've got to be able to develop these secondary players too, so you're not having to go into the market and pay market rate for bench types. So I agree with you that Fitzgerald and McRae are positives to come out of really what's been a tough season for the Giants, but you've got to develop the star core as well.
All right, let's talk about the Cubs. This has been one of your favorite subjects all season long. Imanaga. Taillon goes today. It's been a great weekend up in Chicago. They haven't scored a run yet against the Yankees, but this has been an interesting series. And look, the Cubs were a team that until this last 4 or 5 games, they were in the hunt. And what's happened with the Cubs?
They stopped scoring. I mean, it's funny because they had that week where they scored, 80 runs in 8 games or something?
Yeah.
It's one of the best stretches that any team's had this year and any team's had in a while. But this has been their issue all year. They don't have that one great bat in the middle of the lineup, that one, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge type of hitter who can carry things. They have a lot of good hitters, and then they fall apart a little bit down at the bottom of the order. So when you have a lot of average plus guys, this can happen where nobody's kind of the threat in the middle of the lineup. And, I like Bellinger. I like Suzuki. Dansby Swanson's plus defensively and an average-ish hitter. Pete Crow Armstrong and Miguel Amaya at the bottom of that lineup, 2 of their prospects, really come on here in the second half. But overall, it's not that good an offense. And I think I look at this team, and they have hitters like this coming through as well. Owen Cassie and Kevin Alcantara. They have a lot of these average to average plus hitters coming through the system, but you eventually need to have that one scary monster in the middle of the lineup. And, they're a team that has not really gone out and spent at the top end of free agency. They've gone, they extended Bellinger this year, but they've not really spent that big money. I think that's what they need. They've got to find a way, whether through trade or free agency, to add that one scary monster in the middle of the lineup that's going to carry things. So, we've seen throughout the year, their offense just can die out. Now, Wrigley's played as a pitcher's park this year. That's some of it. But remember, everybody has to hit in Fenway too. So Wrigley too. You've got to be able to score even, if your home park's a pitcher's park. So, I think they've got to add one monster hitter.
Joe Sheen with us. Sounds like a little report on the Giants as well. They need They need something in the middle of their order too. You've talked a lot over this year. We've had you on about run scoring in baseball, offense in baseball. Here we are with 3 weekends to go. Where are we? How does this season stack up? Did it get any better?
We had the usual uptick in July and August, but even that didn't get through all of August. There was a period at the end of August where just run scoring cratered. And this September is shaping up really light. The league's had a 306 OBP through the first week of September, 374 slugging. I mean, just absolutely cratering. And we would expect that to continue throughout September because it does get cooler in September. But this isn't just a weather thing. I'm not sure if the balls got changed in late summer or what. But, man, it is so hard to find power in the game right now. And you watch, you'll be, to use my time zone, 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and there'll have been like 8 runs scored throughout the league. It's really noticeable as you watch day to day. So, again, we know that pitching is ahead of hitting. We know that run scoring drops later in the year, but to see the kind of lack of slugging that we're seeing, I really got to think something's going on with the baseballs. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just one of the things, a certain crop of balls comes off the line, and, it's the way the game changes. But right now, the last thing baseball needs is anything that takes runs out of the game because it was already a difficult year to score runs. And Marty, by the way, when you're doing analysis of this, and I know people say, well, run scoring is about where it was in whatever previous year, you've got to take out extra innings. Yes. The extra inning environment with the runner on second, that's a 20-run-a-game environment. So you really have to only look at 9-inning numbers. And when you look at 9-inning numbers, this is the lowest run scoring since, I think, 2014, and one of the lowest run scoring seasons in any DH league.
Boy, you got to have pitching. It brings me to this question. We got to see Arizona, and they got walloped by the Dodgers, and the Giants came back on their bullpen. Arizona's lost 8 of 12 at the wrong time. Throw a blanket over San Diego, Arizona, Atlanta, and the Mets. There's only 3 spots for 4 teams. This is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, the Padres and Arizona had to stretch things out. But I want to say it's 4 games separating the Padres from the Braves, who are now in that 4th spot. The Diamondbacks scored a ton of runs for a while there. They were another team. At one point, they led the league in runs scored. I'm not sure if they still do. But you're looking at a team that was not expected to be as good offensively and is going to rely a little bit more on their pitching. Remember, they went out and got Eduardo Rodriguez. They went out and got Jordan Montgomery, and those 2 signings haven't really worked out for them. Merrill Kelly's missed most of the year, so they've had to rely on that rotation. The bullpen's been good. They've got a rookie named Justin Martinez, 22 years old, nobody really ever talked about him, and now he shows up throwing 109-mile-an-hour splitters. So the bullpen's actually been pretty effective with him and Kevin Ginkel, even with Paul Sewald's problems. I do think they're going to have to outscore teams. It's a good, not great pitching staff, and they're going to need to get everybody healthy. Moreno's still out. They just got Walker back. Moreno's still out. Gurriel's now out. One of the big things there is Corbin Carroll. We talked earlier in the year, I think, about Corbin Carroll's slow start. He's basically been hitting like Corbin. We would expect from Corbin Carroll for about 6 weeks now.
Well, it's going to happen at the Mets. This Vientos and big home runs and starting pitching. Severino goes today. Their bullpen has been pretty good. Atlanta still doesn't score a ton of runs, but we know that because of all the injuries. How about Atlanta and the Mets? Who would you take between those 2?
The Mets, and that's just because the Braves are just a shell of themselves. Riley went on the IL. They might get Albies back before the year is out. For the Braves to even be in contention with everything that has gone wrong for them this year, I think is pretty impressive. But you look at the teams on the field right now, the Mets, of course, up a game with 3 weeks to play. Give them credit for their offseason work. And Marty, I got to tell you, I didn't love these signings, but Luis Severino and Sean Manaea have been lights out for a while now. And over the course of the year, 55 starts, 320 innings. What are they paying? I think it's $20 million total for the 2 of them. I mean, that's just a really remarkable job of your pro scouting department. And then your pitching develop working with these guys. So, throwing Jose Quintana, and this is pretty much entirely a staff built through free agency, but not signing, like they signed Scherzer and Verlander. This is going out and signing mid-market free agents and getting max value for them. So really good work on their part. And because the offense is so good, they don't need great starters, although they've been very good of late. But the offense, that homegrown offense, you mentioned Vientos, one of my favorite prospects. Even with McNeil out, I think they're going to be fine. McNeil wasn't having much of a year. Francisco Alvarez, he's struggled, but he's still, pretty good hitting for a catcher. So overall, I think we're at the Mets right now. The Mets could end up catching the Padres and ending up as that number 4 seed, getting the home games in the first round.
Yeah, it could. That's how exciting this is going down the stretch. Anything in the American League? Like the Orioles losing again to Tampa Bay today. The Yankees probably going to take care of the Cubs today. My team is Kansas City. They're showing a little bit of life, even though they lost their big slugger. How do you see the AL wild card finishing up?
It really does look like it's going to be the second-place team in the East, and that'll be a good race between the Yankees and Orioles. Neither of which are playing pretty good ball right now. And then, the Royals and Twins. Twins, I think, are still a 4-game lead over the Red Sox. The Red Sox really had a great opportunity with neither the Royals nor the Twins playing all that well, but they're still 4 out with 3 weeks to play. I mean, they could get it done, but that's one of the interesting things about this year, Marty. There's really 13 teams for 12 spots. With 3 weeks left, you could make a case. The Cubs have fallen off. They're 6 back now. The Cards are 6 back. The Giants are at 7 back. The Red Sox, the Tigers, 4.5 back. It's just not going to be a lot of tension a lot of nights. These are good teams, but we just don't have that kind of race that we've had in the wild card the last couple of years where it's 5 or 6 teams with a chance with a week to go.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, great to have you on as always. We always enjoy it. We'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks and see where we are. But there's a lot of interesting things arise. Can he win a third batting title? You look at the players in Major League history who've won 3 in a row. He's been pretty good company there, so we'll follow that story. The Triple Crown of Judge. Can Judge win the batting race in the American League? So I like those stories, too.
Well, the award races are going to be interesting as well. The National League Rookie of the Year race is fantastic, I think, at the individual level. And I tend to not focus too much on the awards till the very end of the season. But it's been a very interesting year for individual accomplishments. So Tani and Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. I mentioned, Carroll coming back to have a good sophomore season. Imanaga coming over and pitching very well for the Cubs. There's a lot of really good stories this year.
Yeah, it is, and more to come. All right, Joe, thanks so much. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Marty.
All right, that is Joe Sheen, joesheen.com. All right. Boy, well, what a Sunday of talking baseball as we get ready for these last few weekends. Giants and Padres today, Spencer Bevins and a whole host of other people behind them against the Padres. A lot of rookies in the lineup today. Very interesting to see Grant McCray today. Now the spotlight is on him a little bit, and the guys point out 27 strikeouts, 3 walks, not great numbers, but he's got the tools, and we like to see that. And when he hits them, they're gone. So it keeps your interest. I'm going to watch his at-bats today. All right, we'll be back next weekend, 2 o'clock at 58 Social. We will be out there next weekend, so we'll see you then. Enjoy the day today. And Walter Icabosetta coming up next right now with our Giants warm-up. Have a good Sunday, everybody.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants warm-up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the sports leader.
The pitch on the way. Swing. There's a high drive to right field. Man, is that smoke. Way back there. Long gone. A 3-run homer for Grant McCray. And he has turned this game upside down, and the Giants have a 3-2 lead.
What's up, Giants fans, and welcome to the Giants warm-up show. Giants taking on the Padres. First pitch, 1:10 later today. It will be Spencer Bivens on the mound for the Giants and Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres. But you heard it there. The story that just keeps on giving is the young guys for the Giants making an impact. And really, that's kind of what we're looking to for the rest of this season. Grant McCray goes out there, hits his first home run of 2. We'll hear the second one just in a little bit, where we'll give you that detailed measurement, the longest one of his 2 yesterday. But Grant McCray, this season, it has not gone exactly how Giants fans and how the Giants organization has wanted this season to go. There was aspirations. I mean, when you look at the offseason spending and with Blake Snell coming in and with Matt Chapman, and congratulations to Matt Chapman for getting his bag. He'll be with the Giants until 2030. But, this team did have expectations to make a run to get into October, and you see what happens, right? I mean, we've seen the formula before with the pitching, defense, and timely hitting, right? And the hitting never really came around. The pitching was a lot of injuries early on in the season, so you didn't really get to see what this Giants team could become. But now the expectation, or I guess the silver lining of what this team is going to build towards next year, right? I mean, we're looking at the calendar in September, and the Giants are out of it, right? I mean, there's no way that they'd make the playoffs unless they went on this godly run and everyone else in front of them, just tanks terribly. But, I think we're beyond that point, right? And now we have switched to what is going to come in 2025. And you saw on display yesterday with Grant McCray, and you just look at the lineup today, right? I mean, there is going to be a different way about going about things down the stretch of the season. When you look at the lineup, it's a rookie day, right? I mean, you have Grant McCray in there, you have Elliot Ramos, Matt Chapman will be in there, and he's going to be the only consistent piece I think that you can expect from the Giants moving forward. Elliot Ramos has had a surprise this year, and we'll have to see how he can develop into being an everyday player. But then you look at Tyler Fitzgerald, another surprise, right? And I just I don't know who's more of the better story or the biggest surprise from this Giants team. Is it Hayden Birdsong, right, on the pitching side of things, to where he kind of came onto the scene and is pitching really well, to where I might feel a little bit more better with Hayden Birdsong at this point than I do with Kyle Harrison. Obviously, Kyle Harrison on the IL with that shoulder inflammation, so we'll have to see how that situation goes. You wanted to see how he can go down the stretch, but the likes of Hayden Birdsong, the likes of Grant McCray, who we're seeing with the power stroke recently, and with Tyler Fitzgerald, he went absolutely on a tear about a month ago. He's kind of cooled off a little bit because pitchers are pitching him differently, right? They see that he's a big leaguer. He can hit. So let's not give him anything over the plate. Let's start to throw him junk. And that's where the plate discipline comes into play, where that is the maturation process of a big leaguer. You go through, you come on and you have this great red hot run, and then pitchers adjust, and that's always the game of baseball. It's a game of adjustments. So that's what I'm looking forward to the rest of this season is how these young guys who are going to get the opportunity. I mean, you look at the lineup today with McCray, Ramos, Tyler Fitzgerald, Gerard Encarnacion, Luis Matos, Marco Luciano, literally every guy that you could hope to see. And what the Giants are hoping to get out of this final month, you're playing against playoff contenders. You're playing against good baseball teams. Now, if these young kids can go out there and kind of just take the control of the reins and play good baseball down the stretch, then you maybe look a little bit better going into 2025. You find out what you have in your organization. You find out what you have in your farm system. I'd like to see if any other guys, maybe in the final 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the season, if we're able to see a Carson Wisenhunt make a couple of spot starts down the stretch at some point, if we're able to see Reggie Crawford come out of the bullpen, and I'm not really sure which direction the Giants want to go with Reggie Crawford, but it does look like he is a high leverage situational guy. But he was a starter. He was looking to be a starter. At one point, he was drafted as a two-way player. The Giants have now only made him a pitcher. So again, it's just these guys, these questions where they're on the cusp of being big leaguers. You got to get them in there. You got to see what you have and evaluate what the true needs are. Now, if Grant McCray can come out there and fill a void and be a solid hitter down the stretch, that makes you feel a little bit better about what the roster can look like next year, right? I mean, we talk about pitching, we talk about defense and situational hitting. Now, I'm not expecting Grant McCray to go out there every day and hit home runs, hit 2 home runs, multi-hit home run games. I'm not expecting that at all. But what I want to see is someone that can spread the ball to all parts of the field, someone that can get on base, utilize that speed, because that is something that is huge that has eluded the Giants all year long. For not even this season, just past seasons, the Giants have not been an athletic team. They have not been that for quite some time. They just don't have it. They don't have the speed, right? And that's why when you look to Grant McCray, and he also plays a fantastic defense, if you can get him out there with Jung-Hoo Lee, and then you throw Elliot Ramos out there in left field, and you have a situation, because we all know how it goes at Oracle Park, you need 2 center fielders, right? And Grant McCray is playing a great center field. I don't think that his play pulls Jung-Hoo Lee out of center field, but you have him in right field, right? And he does have a solid arm as well. So then you have the two center field combination that you need for the outfield that can bode well for the Giants. And they're both athletic and they're both fast. That's how this Giants team can get back to being successful. And you have Elliot Ramos, where, I mean, he has tailed off a little bit, but he has potential. He does have, I think, the makings of being a maybe not a superstar, but a solid quality everyday outfielder for the San Francisco Giants. So that's what we want to see going down the field. But yesterday, down the road, rather, not down the field. Sorry, I'm multitasking and watching some football too, so I'm looking at the field as well. But Grant McCray, right? He is the big storyline for the Giants yesterday, a big surprise. And again, 808 KNBR, is he someone that you can look to as being the real deal? Is he someone that you can look to as being a part of this Giants team moving forward? 808 KNBR is the number. We're also live on YouTube and Twitch. Go ahead and drop down your thoughts on there. I'm active in the chat. So just let me know. Let me know what you think about these young guys. We are going to see a lot of them today. It is rookie day by definition. I mean, the only guys that aren't really rookies is Chapman, Conforto, and Kirk Casale. That's about it. Everyone else is going to be getting a solid look today against Joe Musgrove. But Grant McCray was the big story yesterday. 2 home runs. He's really breaking on to the scene here. And McCray, pretty much, I mean, what we were talking about with Jung-Hoo Lee and the potential of what that outfield can be. And Grant McCray did not hold back. He loves the opportunity that or the potential situation that could arise next year with him and Jung-Hoo Lee out there. They could just wreak havoc in the positive way. I guess maybe wreaking havoc isn't the phrase that I'm looking for, but they can be really a really solid defensive team if that was the pairing in center field and right field. And Grant McCray realizes what opportunity he has in front of him to kind of cement his path forward with the Giants going into 2025 and going into spring training, right? They all know the deal. They all know what is at stake. This is essentially a month tryout for Grant McCray, and he did go into some detail about what it can potentially look like. And he has a little swagger, a little confidence. That's something that also eludes this Giants team. You love to see that with a young guy just coming in there with that much confidence. Feels like he belongs. So he was talking about him and Jung-Hoo Lee being the defensive outfield for the Giants in 2025. Here's what he had to say post-game.
Honestly, whatever they got planned for me, I'm just going with the flow. Whatever they decide is whatever they decide. But for me, I would like it to be me, Jung-Hoo, and whoever else in the outfield, Ramos, Conforto, Matos, whoever they need. But I feel like me and Jung-Hoo together in the outfield would really help the Giants win some ball games and, put a lot of fear in a lot of teams' hearts.
It could definitely put a lot of fear in teams' hearts. I mean, you look at just the defensive capabilities of Jung-Hoo Lee and Grant McCray. I mean, we already know at home that balls go to die in the outfield, in right field and in center field. So if you have that pairing and you have great defense behind a solid pitching staff that the Giants are hoping to build on for next year, it'll be really interesting. It'll see. I mean, you could see a lot of runs saved with Grant McCray and Jung-Hoo Lee. I do get excited about that pairing just because of the athleticism, and we're only talking about defense, right? I mean, that's the other part to Grant McCray's game is that what we have to see down the stretch. We know that he can defend. We know that he's fast in the outfield. We know that he has good reactionary time, a good first step. That's all great characteristics. But the biggest thing, and yesterday, I mean, you can't really come out there and say right now that it's not a thing. But the biggest thing is that you have to see if he can hit at this level. You have to see if he can put together solid at bats, if he can be a major league everyday type of guy, right? Because we know the speed. We saw what he's done in the minor leagues. We've seen the stolen base numbers. I mean, this guy does have the tools. It's just, can he make it a regular thing and not go through these hot spells of really putting together solid contact? You want to see it consistent over a long period of time. So that's what we're going to see down this stretch with Grant McCray. He's going to be out there. But yeah, that pairing, I mean, when you look to what they can potentially do at the top of the lineup, it's just phenomenal. You can't help but be a little bit excited about what 2025 can be with Grant McCray out there and producing at the level that he is now. Bob Melvin, he kind of goes over and talks about Grant McCray yesterday and his power being on full display, because that was also a thing with the likes of Tyler Fitzgerald and also Grant McCray. It's just, you didn't really know how the power would translate to the big league level. And it's nice to see that they're having early success at this point in their career. And Bob Melvin really goes into Grant McCray's power and how impressed he is by the youngster at this point in the season.
I mean, one was a breaking ball, one's a heater. You know, he's got a history of hitting lefties in the minor leagues. It's about putting the bat on the ball and finding a good pitch to hit. And when he does it, you know, you've seen him go to left field, opposite way. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of power there, as you've seen. You know, to hit the ground running as hard as he has and go through a bad game and come back and, you know, keep his wits about him. And for a young guy, you know, we never envisioned him being here this season. Maybe next year. Everybody likes him in development, but it's been so impressive.
Yeah, it really has been impressive, and I don't think anyone has really taken time to kind of reflect on the young guys that are making an impact now. Just how, I mean, did you ever see Tyler Fitzgerald making an impact and being the type of hitter and having the type of power that he had? Did you ever see them being on this team, Grant McCray and Tyler Fitzgerald, right? I mean, I would say that at the beginning of spring training, those guys were, I mean, they had speed and you'd hope that they can put it together, but I think that it would be considered an afterthought at that point. So it's really nice to see the growth from these guys in such a short period of time, and just to see how they can continue to grow as big leaguers for the San Francisco Giants team. And you heard Bob Melvin talk about the power. You heard the first call coming in here with Grant McCray hitting that 3-run shot early in the game to give the Giants the lead. And now Grant McCray, he hit not one, he hit 2 home runs yesterday. The one in the 9th had our Hall of Famer on the call, John Miller. Nothing more that I love than hearing John call a home run ball on the radio. And here's what it sounded like.
2-1 pitch on the way. Swing, and there's a high drive to right. Way back there, on its way. Goodbye! His second home run of the game. That one into right center. And that is a backbreaker for the Padres. Grant McCray with a 2-homer game. And the Giants have a 6-3 lead. He has 5 RBIs in this one. And another run that scored on his double play grounder. He's hitting 9th in the order, but having a great night for the best of cleanup hitters.
Yeah, so you heard it there, the home run. John really loved that one. He loved calling that one. I mean, the first one, you always like hearing John Miller's call on the radio with the home runs and everything like that. But you heard that first one. There was a little bit more emphasis on that second one in the 9th inning. That home run went for 425. It was the longest home run of the two yesterday, or the longer home run of the two yesterday from Grant McCray. And that detailed measurement is sponsored by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. Grant McCray hitting that home run, his second of the day. You just hope that power can continue to present itself and see how he can go and really finish out strong the rest of this month of September with a lot of playoff teams, a lot of good pitching. So we're going to really see what these young guys and Grant McCray is made of coming up here shortly. So we will continue the conversation on the other side. Who do you want to see more of this final stretch of the season, this final month of the year in September? Who do you want to see more of? What current young players can you count on going into 2025? There is a lot of them, but how many of them are you for sure that can be contributors for the Giants in 2025? We'll also hear from Bob Melvin and Logan Webb, just kind of seeing where the development of this team is going. We'll do that on the other side, but your calls, 808 KNBR is the number. That's 415-808-5627. Go ahead and give me a call. Give me your thoughts on the situation of the Giants with all of these young guys. Who are you most excited to see going down the stretch and into 2025? And who do you think can be a big contributor for next year's Giants team? You're listening to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Now back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warm Up on KNBR, the sports leader.
What's up, Giants fans, and welcome back to the Giants Warm-Up Show. That's one thing that Raph does know. The key to my heart is great rejoin music. I love me some Earth, Wind, and Fire. I know everyone on the YouTube switch or YouTube and Twitch, the chat, you can't hear it, but everyone on AM and FM KNBR, yeah, September, love it. What are you looking forward to down the stretch of the Major League season, down this final a couple of weeks here in September? The Giants do have a lot of young pieces that are in the lineup today, and I'll let you know. It is a rookie day. I mean, that is what we have, and just the lineup that the Giants are throwing out there. I like it. I like it in the sense of now it is the time for a full evaluation of what this team, what this organization has to offer. Because, we know that this season, the Giants are not getting into the postseason. So how can you salvage this season as much as possible? You get development. You get to see what you have in the farm system, what you have in your organization, and see if they're big leaguers, see if they can be key pieces moving forward. How many of those young guys right now currently can you say are pieces moving forward? I mean, Patrick Bailey, obviously, he will be one of those guys moving forward. He is not in the lineup today. We'll give you the lineup here shortly. But is Elliot Ramos someone that you can count on to go out there and be in the lineup every day? Is he one of those guys? Is Tyler Fitzgerald? Where does he play? He's going through the growing pains right now of being a shortstop. Does he figure to be over at second base. We'll go ahead and look at who's playing at second base today. Marco Luciano, is he someone that you can count on being the future of this Giants team and being on that team next year? Because, you know, let's be honest, there has not been good defensive play by Marco Luciano since he has been in the big leagues, right? I mean, they had him over in shortstop. He was not doing a good job. And a big reason as to why Matt Chapman was initially brought in was that they wanted to have Marco Luciano over at shortstop. And you have Matt Chapman over there kind of as a buffer, kind of as, you know, I'll take care of this entire area and you just stay in your lane and you handle that. But it didn't work out. Not saying that it can't. I mean, you could always teach someone how to play defense, and he's still young and he's still in his early stages of development. But if this was such a huge problem, and it was, I remember the conversation when he was in San Jose for Marco Luciano was that his defense wasn't that great. And the fact that it has now translated over a couple of seasons now, and now he's in the big leagues, and it's kind of like, oh, well, we don't really have a position for him. The last thing you want to do is have Marco Luciano be a 23, 22-year-old DH, right? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things, because I think that his bat does translate to the big leagues. We'll just have to see how good of a bat he does have. So again, when you look at this lineup, and I'll give it to you here momentarily, but when you look at this lineup, how many of these young guys can you count on for 2025, for the rest of this season, the rest of this month of September, but into the 2025 and into the future? So the lineup here is Grant McCray. He is leading off. You figured that will be a Jung-Hoo Lee position in the future, or actually maybe he'll be the number 2 hole. Maybe he'll be the number 2 hole, but Grant McCray is there hitting leadoff. And in center field, you have Elliot Ramos batting second. In left field, Matt Chapman is batting third at third base. You got Michael Conforto batting fourth with the DH spot, batting cleanup. Tyler Fitzgerald batting fifth at shortstop. Gerard Encarnacion batting sixth at first base. You have Luis Matos batting seventh in right field. Marco Luciano eighth at second base, and Kurt Casale batting ninth at the catcher position, giving Patrick Bailey much needed rest down the stretch here. So Grant McCray, Elliot Ramos, Matt Chapman, Michael Conforto, Tyler Fitzgerald, Gerard Encarnacion, Luis Matos, Marco Luciano, and Kurt Casale. I believe we do have Mike in SF on the line. He wants to talk about these young guys. Mike, what's up, man? It's been quite some time since we've talked. I wasn't on any of the warm-up shows last week. It's kind of been 2 weeks since we spoke. Mike, what's up, man? Welcome to the warm-up show.
Yeah, buddy, missed you. The Earth, Wind, and Fire was great, though. I went and saw them a couple times when I was a kid, the good old days, you know?
Oh, man, did you get to go see Earth, Wind, and Fire out there? I know they were performing recently out there in Concord, at the Concord Pavilion with Santana. I definitely wanted to go to that one. Hell yeah, rap. Yeah, just keep it playing during this hit with Mike.
Hey, I'm all about the music. You can throw those on.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. What's up, Mike? What's on your mind, man? What's on your mind today?
I was looking at our lineup and what you were asking, and had a look at the schedule, and I was just thinking to myself, well, hey, we got San Diego, Milwaukee, Baltimore, KC, Arizona, and St. Louis to finish off here, and those teams are all vying for playoff positioning, and some of them are trying to get in to the playoffs. So these are meaningful games for our young guys, and I think it's going to be a good test of them. Where some other years you might have, like, you know, just a last month of your schedule that everybody's just kind of trying to make a name for themselves, or the games don't mean much. So there's that. I like McCray, I like Ramos, I like Fitzgerald as my three guys that are going to be a part of this roster next year. I think Encarnacion, it's really interesting to see him playing some first base today because, you know, right field and first base, I like him being able to play both. And I just think he offers us insurance power bat come next season if we don't find one. Matos, still my guy. You got a chance to prove yourself. Go out there and do it, buddy. Luciano, things with him. Obviously, we all talk about the defense, and sometimes that's just reps at the major league level, and sometimes that's working with someone. So hopefully he gets that straightened out, and hopefully he just realizes this is a go time for him, and forgets about the mistakes. Go out there and make some, right? No big deal. I'd like to see them all on the team next year. But in case we don't, at least they're going to get a fair shake here and against this quality competition that they're going to need moving forward. So,
and Mike, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
What I was just going to ask you was, who are you most confident in of these young guys moving forward to kind of have their impact on the Giants in 2025 and beyond? Who would it be? I mean, I know you mentioned Grant McCray, you mentioned Tyler Fitzgerald, Elliot Ramos. I mean, who of those three, or if it's someone that I didn't mention, who do you feel most confident in?
Really, those three are kind of equals in my eyes.
Okay.
I see them all as everyday players. And with McCray, it's kind of funny. Going in the last off season, I heard management talking about, we need to find an everyday center fielder. And I was like, guys, don't you see McCray here? He's like so electric. It was just a head scratcher. But, he had to learn he had to get that batting average up, obviously, and get down on the strikeouts. So he's been doing that. And the pop has stayed with him. The guy's got these, like the top of his forearm is like, it's like he's hiding golf balls in there or something. But, yeah, he's got power. He's got speed. I'd love to see him and Jung-Hoo work out with coaching staff who's going to be hitting leadoff and who's going to be hitting second next year. And I prefer the base stealer going hitting leadoff. And I believe Jung-Hoo can be that guy. We just haven't seen it yet.
Jung-Hoo, it wasn't a part of his it wasn't a part of his game, Mike. But he does have quickness, he does have speed. So maybe it can be a part of his game. It's just a different game that they play over there. So coming over here, the stolen base, it'll be interesting to see if he can be that kind of guy. But something that you said there with the leadoff guy, if Grant McCray can make it a regularity of being an on base machine, like if he can channel some part of Lamont Wade Jr. and not the injury prone part, but the part of him getting on base, it would be really beneficial to the Giants. And then you could slot in Jung-Hoo Lee right there at the number 2 spot. And then you have Elliot Ramos in the 3 spot, and then hopefully, I mean, they can maybe get a power bat this offseason, because that's another thing that you can look to, Mike, and I'll ask you this one question and then I'll let you go, man. But with the development of all these young guys, is it potentially a tryout, or is it potentially a showcase to where maybe some of these pieces, like if Marco Luciano can go down the stretch and prove that he has a really solid bat, and maybe the Blue Jays want to take a chance on taking Marco Luciano, then you can put him in a package for a deal and getting Vlad Jr. Do you see that as a possibility when you look to the development of these young guys as possibly being a showcase for all of Major League, not even just Toronto, but all of Major League, and saying, hey, we got these guys, we got them in the farm system as well, we have a machine here, and let's make a deal?
What we've got ready is what we've got. I completely am in line with your thinking. What we've got ready, from what I see, is what we got. The only guy I can tell you I'm excited about to see in spring is Eldridge, but these guys are ready, and they've earned it. They've earned this opportunity, and I don't see the Giants. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but
I want to be careful in what I say. I don't see the Giants as showcasing them themselves, but this is definitely an opportunity for them to show off their skills and really things could get very interesting in the off season if a player like the guy we've been, talking about all year, or somebody else along the lines of that talent becomes available from another organization, and it really just boils down to, okay, I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me, and I think we've got one of the most talented organizations in the league as far as that goes heading into this offseason.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this season kind of unfolds down the stretch and the development of these young guys. Mike, thanks for calling in, man. Always, all the time, and I'll be on next Sunday, and then I'll be on both days to on Saturday and Sunday to finish out the year. So feel free to call back anytime, man. We'll continue to chat about these young guys.
For sure. Take good care.
All right. Yeah, man. I mean, when you look to this Giants team, and I did bring up with Mike, is this a potential showcase, right? I mean, I have right here on, if you're watching on YouTube, I have the guy that I want the Giants to go get. I have me a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Bobblehead, and I will continue to talk about that and hope that he is a San Francisco Giant in the future. But if not, I mean, the Giants do need a power threat, and something that when you look to the minor leagues, Bryce Eldridge, he has been kind of going through the minor leagues, just skyrocketing through. He's in Richmond right now, and he's going to finish out the year in Richmond. And I assume that he will get an invite and be at spring training and see what he can do and how he can kind of carry over his success that he had this year. Is it too much of an ask to expect Bryce Eldridge to be on this Giants team next year? I would say so, but I mean, you never know how situations can arise. You never know how rosters can be shaken out. And if he goes into spring training and just puts on a absolute showcase, I mean, why not? Why not? If he is tearing the cover off the ball, and again, you have to keep in mind that they are playing in Arizona in that dry weather, but the ball just flies at Scottsdale and just all of the Cactus League. So you do have to take that into account. But if he is having solid at bats, and if he is a solid force for the Giants, it is another young guy, but you would like to have a veteran presence there to be your power bat, but. It'd be really interesting to see how this roster can all shake out. And when you hear Logan Webb, right? Logan Webb was he's a leader for this team, and that is something that when you look at the clubhouse, and has been a question, not necessarily a question, but since Buster and Brandon Belt have all departed, right? It was always a question of who is going to be that vocal leader, right? Who's going to be that leadership presence in the clubhouse? You have that with Logan Webb. You have that with Matt Chapman now, and you will have that for the foreseeable future with that 6-year extension extending into 2030. So when you look at Logan Webb, and he's kind of been he's the veteran on this team. He is the leader on this team, and he talked yesterday about how much fun that he's had watching these young guys grow into what they could potentially be. And this is what he had to say post game.
Yeah, it's a great group we got over there, and like I said, it's fun to watch these guys get to do their thing every day and kind of grow into the guys that they're going to be, and it's been fun for me.
Yeah, and he also, I mean, being that veteran presence, it's been fun. It's been fun for him to watch what this team can be, or what they can grow into. And he is kind of the elder statesman. Like he is the veteran in the room for this team, along with Matt Chapman. But he said yesterday post game on what his message is to pass along to these young guys, and hopefully that message is received and they can continue to grow in their development. So this was Logan Webb yesterday on passing along the message to the young guys post game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message from me to those guys is just to go out there and have fun and try to do just stuff that they've done always, right? I think one of the coolest messages I was given, and I try to give to other guys, it's the same game that you played since you were 6 years old. I think everyone in this room is probably the best player that on all those teams that they played growing up, and it's the same game. So come up here and don't press, don't try to do anything different. Just go out there and have fun, and that's what we got going right now. And that's I think we all wish we were in a different spot, but it's cool to see some of these young guys get some opportunities and hopefully just take advantage of it, have fun while you're doing it, because I think that's when, and that's including myself and all the other guys too, older guys. Kind of this last month, just have some fun out there and just try to compete every day, and that's all you can really do.
Yeah, you just have them go out there and compete, go out there and take advantage of the opportunity that is given for them, and just continue to grow in your development process. And the Giants are going full rookie lineup today for the most part, outside of Conforto and Chapman. And I think it was Casale, rounding out the lineup. So we'll take a quick break. We will wrap up on the other side, and we've been talking about the young guys, and if there is promise in the farm system and guys are producing at the big league level down the stretch, is that enough for Farhan to be back next year? Do you have renewed confidence in Farhan going into next season? Because you see the contract extension with Matt Chapman, they are still trying to win, but they do realize that there is a opportunity for development and growth. So what do you think going down the stretch, if the team is producing and these young guys are continuing to show promise? Does that mean that Farhan is definitely back next year? We will continue to have that conversation on the other side, and we will wrap things up on the Giants warm-up show. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show as we get you ready for first pitch at 110 between the Giants and the San Diego Padres at Petco Park. It will be a fun one. Spencer Bivens, is on the bump for the Giants. So you'll see a little bit of some bullpen guys in there today. I would expect. He did pitch I believe he's pitched on the 4th. And through 54 pitches. Yeah, he pitched on the 4th last 54 pitches. So maybe you'll see a Landon Roop in there. Maybe you'll see a Sean Jelly. We'll have to see how the pitching rotation is put together today to get through 9 innings. And the Giants going with a full rookie lineup for the most part today. You're going to get to see a lot of the youth in this Giants organization with Marco Luciano, Luis Matos, Elliot Ramos, Tyler Fitzgerald, Grant McCray, who had a fantastic game last night. But let's go out to the phone lines. We do have Mark on the phone in San Francisco. Mark, welcome to the Giants warm-up show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to the development of our young pitching. Tyson Beck, Mason Black, Harrison. We have some young pitching. That's going to be the key to our winning in the future, is having great pitching. And to me, this season's all about looking at our young players, and particularly developing our pitching staff, our young pitching staff. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to for the rest of the season, is seeing some of these young pitchers get an opportunity to show what they can do.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about these young guys, and unfortunately Kyle Harrison is on the 15-day IL with that shoulder inflammation. So hopefully everything is all good there. But Hayden Birdsong is one of the guys that, when you talk about surprises for the 2024 campaign for the Giants, he really came on strong. He did kind of fizzle out a little bit, but that's the growing pains of going through. And that's why down the stretch, when you look at Tristan Beck, when you look at a Mason Black, and maybe we'll even see a Landon Roop, right? Because he looks like somebody that could come into the Giants rotation plans in the future, because he has a electric electric curveball that just drops off the table. But you do want to kind of mix in some veteran presence there. And Raph, is Mark still there? Mark, you're still there, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah, man. Let me ask you really quick, because you do want to have some veteran presence in your rotation if you do want to be competitive. And if it's all just fully on a rebuild, then that is a little bit of a different story. But where do you stand on potentially seeing a Blake Snell come back with the Giants? It might be a huge ask, but you look at the contract extension that Matt Chapman just received with a Scott Boras client. They both have the same agent. Matt Chapman comes back, and I felt like early on that Matt Chapman was more critical to the success and development of the young position players for the Giants. But do you kind of see the same thing with Blake Snell in being a huge cog in the development for the young guys? When you look at Kyle Harrison and when you look at Hayden Birdsong and just everyone else that we've discussed on the pitching staff, how high on the priority list would you have Blake Snell in returning for next season?
I would definitely try to get him, because you need somebody like that to be the head of your staff to really help the young pitchers coming up, just like Chapman's helping the young everyday players on the starting lineup. And I think that another thing, I would also try to look at maybe O'Neill of the Red Sox, if he's a free agent, a right-handed power hitter.
Yeah.
But I would definitely invest in pitching, because mostly we're going to have to invest in pitching, because a lot of the hitters don't want to come here. So if you're going to invest in anything, invest in pitching. And if you're going to go for a pitcher, I think Snell is definitely a guy you want to have on your staff for sure to go forward.
Yeah, and he's already here. He played under Bob Melvin for 2 consecutive seasons, and it seems like he likes the Bay Area. He likes being a part of this team. So that could be pretty significant if he was to come back. It's just the dollar amount, right? He has pitched down the stretch pretty effectively, so maybe that dollar amount has gone a little bit higher. But yeah, it would be really important to have you talk about the veteran presence. And Mark, thank you so much for the call, and call in anytime. But you look at the at the presence for the San Francisco Giants on the pitching rotation side of things. You do have Logan Webb. He is a leader there, but you need to have some help with Logan Webb. It can't be Logan Webb all the time, every fifth day. It can't. That's just not sustainable. So if you can get him another ace, another 1A, 1B type situation with Blake Snell, and just have that ride for as long as possible, because that's also another thing in that when you look at the development of not only the position players, you look at the development of the pitching staff. And something that we wanted to see was Kyle Harrison take strides forward. And now comes the question of, is Kyle Harrison more of a front end rotational piece, or is he kind of in the middle or towards the back end? Is he still potentially to be a number one, number two, or a high end number two, high end number three, or is he more kind of around the back end of a rotation in a 4 and a 5? So that's something that, unfortunately, because of the shoulder inflammation, we won't have that answer. I think that he did have a decent season, but it wasn't the steps forward that I guess you would want to see. But I still think that he's capable. He definitely, when we're talking about Kyle Harrison, he's definitely someone that can fit into the rotation. It's just a matter of, man, he has to get secondary pitches. He has to get a hold of his off speed and really have like an out pitch, because you can't just go in there against big leaguers and just throw heat, because then you become predictable, and if you're leaving it over the plate and you're missing your marks, that's it just becomes a very difficult outing for the youngster. But there's still time. He's still young. He's 22, I believe, and turning 23. He's still in the developmental part of his career. But if he was able to get a hold of the changeup that Logan Webb throws, I mean, that could just make him incredible. They can make him incredible down the stretch and for the rest of his career with the Giants. So we'll have to see how all of that unfolds. But really quick, before we get out of here, because we are up against it, let me go ahead and give you the standings update. That standings update is brought to you by Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. Now, the standings, the Giants are currently 8.5 games out of the final wild card spot, and the division leaders are currently the Los Angeles Dodgers at 85 and 57. The Phillies 85 and 57. That goes into play for when you're talking about the first round buys. And then the Milwaukee Brewers are 82 and 60. Then the wild card shapes up as follows: the Padres, Diamondbacks, and Mets currently hold. Look at the Mets. Look at the Mets and Grimace just out there, just holding on to that final wild card spot, 1 game ahead of the Atlanta Braves. I haven't looked at the schedule, but if they do play down the stretch, that's much-watch baseball. I'm just saying that right now. So we will get to this game coming up here between the Giants and the Padres. The rookies are in the lineup. You get to see what you have moving forward down the stretch of this season and into 2025. Spencer Bivens on the mound against Joe Musgrove. Pregame is coming up next. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.